MOM3, I am. DAD1, MOM3. We actually played at the Red Sox, the Orlando Magic, or the Boston Red Sox. The Sunshine State, the sun, which is hella. Okay, so right here you have what you call our fans, right? And they're cool. They cool you down, right? So you have this right here. Okay? You have POD, which is like a Christian metal, right? Smashing Pumpkins, which is grunge. Slipknot, which is like rock from 2000s, late 90s. Metallica, which is metal. Metallica. This is Lacuna Coil with a female lead singer. There's not a lot of female lead singers anywhere, right? You see her here. What you will say is a Patty at Julia Roberts at JJ Redick, Orlando Black Magic, or the Boston Red Sox, right? JJ Redick, Lacuna Coil, this and that, right? So I'll go explaining JJ Redick as an example, right? Talking about how it works with the draft, right? Okay, so that's how you build a team with a draft, right? So what I would say is an example, right? Let me see. My university in college is Duke, right? So what I'm gonna talk about is the basics, how you make a good foundation, and me being traded is not my fault, right? I didn't ask to be traded. The owner traded me, right? I'm just not putting my face for now so you can see that. You can hardly see me, right? So you have Duke, right? And you say Mom Dukes, right? So you have most of the best players go to Duke, but they have to get accepted, right? Or well, they get recruited, right? So you have JJ Redick. They have a Julia Roberts at closer, right here, right? Let's see. Okay, you have that. You have this, right? You have this, right? You have this. You have this. Right, so you could say that that's the person's that's the person's like an actor, their profile. So you see what they look like. So when you hire someone, it's an example, right? When you get an athlete, their name and what they look like also makes them the performer, right? So when you see DAD1, just notice, right? Notice 100%, right? The last name McGrady doesn't seem like a name of a person that is like a basketball player, right? So I'll give the example of the last name McGrady that you have Elton John, right? So Elton John's name is not really like that. He made up that name, right? So you have other people's names, right? And sometimes a person could change their name as a performer, and you think that's their name, right? So I'm giving the example of Tracy is a good name, right? But McGrady is not a name that you go like, that sounds like an athlete, right? It sounds like a name of a person like McGrady, right? it sounds like a name that is not very well. It's not a name that is very common, right? Who have you met? Like people's last names, right? Smith, right? Maybe Jones, right? Like you have in Spanish, right? Gonzalez, right? And things like that, right? Because they're common last names. So you put that in a jersey, and it looks like something that, yeah, that could be an athlete, right? But I'm giving the example of the profile that you give to the person, right? Like a resume, and that name, McGrady. Have you ever heard that name before? No. Okay. So does it sound like a athlete's name? No, right? So whenever I see the jersey, I will say that name, you've never seen it and you're never gonna see it again, right? It's like Tracy is a performer that you've seen, right, doing the performance, but you're never gonna see that again, right? Just like the name, right? So it's like a lot of people have names and last names that a lot of people have, but you have the wife, the husband. Tracy is a name that you're never gonna see again. Just like as a performer, you're never gonna see again. And you say the career's cut short. It is what it is because of handicap, right? It's handicap, so the career's cut short. That's the character, right? The character of Tracy at basketball is that it's handicap, right? So how are you gonna show that? Okay, the career's gonna be cut short because it's handicap, right? How do you know it's handicap, right? After the 7 years, right? You can't run or you can't jump. You see, you can't run or you can't jump, right? So after that you can't run or you can't jump, you have a whole bunch of years that you have the wife playing on a wheelchair, right? So the performance is not going to be the same, right? But the wife, add the athlete, right, wanted to keep playing, right? Myself, add the wife, I will stop playing, right? If I can run or jump like before, I'm just gonna retire, but it's just gonna be a very short career, right? So what happens with a lot of athletes, right? They're like, I know, I can't run or jump anymore, but I want to keep playing, right? So that's what happens, right? And you know how the behavior is, right? When you have me at MOM3, I'm considered the best baseball player of all time, right? I'm considered that. But I also, it's like I'm not a GOAT, right? I don't put myself in the category of a GOAT because everybody knows what happens, right? It's a trap for a sin, and not only is it a trap for a sin, but it's like then I'm putting myself also in the category that how would you say that I'm like everybody else, which I'm not, right? I'm creator creation and I have my job, right? But the reason I'm put as the best is because I don't have a handicap. You see, I'm not handicapped, so the career is long, and that's what happens, right? And a big sister, the same thing. Big sister's not handicapped, right? So you have Green, Reggie Miller, and Montana J316, the career being long. But a Montana J316, you have to sacrifice, so there were injuries. But the career was long, almost at age 40, right? Okay, so then you have Michael Hal Jordan, right? And the career was long, right? Okay, so who has the short career? The wheelchair, right? That's the character, right? So people were very upset and sad when Tracy got injured, right? DAD won the wife, right? But you could say it's not the same thing, right? It's not dead, but like you say, a lot of people cry when the wife DAD won. It's the movie, you understand? It's the movie. That's the characters you write. You have to understand, right? In the movies, someone plays the bad guy, like I would say, right? So in the movie, the one that plays the bad guy has to kill DAD1, the wife, because then you cannot have Daniel Simba become the Lion King, right? It's the movie, it's the story. It's like DAD1, the wife has to die. Something has to happen, right? So you need a villain, and that's what happens, okay? But that's the characters to tell a story. Now, what happens in real life with people, that's something else, right? So, like I said, movies are just stories, right? So my favorite movie of all time, cartoon, will be the Lion King, right? Because it teaches you how is properly the food cycle, right? It teaches you that all animals have souls, and basically that's it, right? But animals are all 934s, but they do their thing within the animal kingdom, right? Nature is brutal, right? It's something that you don't want to see, especially in the food cycle, right? But they're all 934s because they're not doing 2118, and they're not humans or hybrids people walking on two legs, right? So you can never see me, and that's why I'm the Holy Spirit, right? And that's why you see I'm the person is like the insurance ladder stand is the entire Neapolitan ice cream, right? But I'm the one that's the manager. I do everything with management, this and that. No one else does anything. Whatever I say that goes on with management, that's myself, right? Just like the same thing. The same thing that happens with Big Sister, the AD1, the wife. You can say Big Sister disability, right? It's them, right? So everything that has to do with management, how to run a company, that's all me. No one can do anything except for myself at the ice cream, right? So I'm here to teach how to get a championship at the New York Knicks. You see, it's a school, okay? So that's my school, right? And I said a million times, right? They haven't won a championship since 73, 70, right? Because they don't know how to draft, right? So this is what it's all about. I'm teaching how to run a company, this and that. And the basic thing is this, right? Anywhere that you work, right? You could say you get a job by references, and basically a reference has to be that you're like a good person, right? You're a good person. You're a golden rule. You treat people good, right? What happens with that? Okay, what happens with that? Number one thing, you're not fired, right? You don't get fired, right? And then you don't get fired, but then people really like you, right? And you could say you could become like a role model because this person does good things, right? So that's when you get a reference, but like a good reference, right? So whatever happens with any job, the people know you, right? And when something happens in the future, whatever, and you want to apply to something else, they will give you a reference, right? And then if you know their people, they know that you're a good person, extremely good at all these things that I just mentioned, right? And then you could get another job, almost without you applying, right? It's like you don't even apply, you just got the job because you got a reference, right? So with myself, Stanley Cup Kubrick, right? It's really tough to work with me, right? Because I'm very demanding, right? So you could say, right, Stanley Cup Kubrick, right, is like I'll give the example, right? I'm not any of the avatars, right? I'm not, right, at all. But people do their best to represent me, right? Once that avatar is there, that belongs to me, right? That individual belongs to me as a representative, right? So all souls are individuals, right? All souls are individuals. All NYK numbers are individuals. No one is the same. That I mentioned before, right? It's like you have a classroom that's NYK, right? You have the number, right? You have a whole bunch of seats, all those people together, but they're not the same, right? So I'll give the best example, right? You have a breed of raccoons, right? That's how this works, right? No to racism, right? You have 100 raccoons, right? 100, right? So then one raccoon does something that is not like the other raccoons, right? But they're all NYK the same number, right? So what are you gonna do then, right? This raccoon does something that's not like the other raccoons. Could you tell them apart? But they're all the same NYK number, right? So it's only one, right? So it's only one raccoon, right? Or maybe it could be 5 or 10 raccoons, right? So what are you gonna do then, right? Just to see that you're not racist, right? They're an NYK number, right? So raccoon applies to 88, which is Jerry Rice College, drafted, right? 45 is actually Jordan, right? It's Jordan, 45, not to racism, right? But the reason it's applied to, you could say to raccoons, right? Freckies and Jerry's is because 45 it also means that since it's no to racism, that's what 45 is. It's like Sydney, right? Chewbacca, Goofy, Mike Tyson, right? Big Pitbull. His name is his number is 25, right? But 25 really means breaking the numerology, right? So 45, the actual description is 45 is no to racism, right? But I put it along with raccoons to show that all raccoons are not the same. That's why you have the 45 there, right? That's Mars, right? If anyone is part of Mars, then that's where you have 45 in Mars, right? Because you're not gonna go to China and say all people from Mars are Nazis, right? So you have the number 45 is put in Mars for that reason, right? Because that's the war, right? And you're not gonna go to China, right? And you're gonna go, all these Chinese people are bad, right? No, it's not, right? So you put Jordan 45 in China. You understand? That's where you put the 45, which makes sense, right? So the actual number for raccoons is 88, right? It's 88, which is Jerry Rice drafted from college, which is a college that no one's ever heard of before, right? That's Jerry Rice. And you put Jerry Rice because that's the top of the ladder, right? It's like monkeys get in a lot of trouble, right? It is what it is, right? But who's top in the monkey ladder? Allen Iverson, which are Jessies, right? So Jessies, right? Just to show what's no to racism, right? Jessies are not Adriana Lima, Willis Reed, right? And then you have Trey Young, and then you have Paul George, right? Paul George, right? Trey Young, right? And Willis Reed are not Allen Iverson, right? So they're at a lower level in the ladder, right? So Allen Iverson is on top of the ladder, right? So you have monkeys that are orangutans, chimpanzees, right? So you have different monkeys, right? So you have different monkeys in the ladder, right? But it's not the same, right? So monkeys get in a lot of trouble, right? But who's in the top at the monkey ladder? You put Jesse Allen Iverson, right? And that's it, right? So usually what will happen, right? The monkeys want to get somewhere, right? So what avatar will they send? Right? It's just common sense, right? The monkeys is a ladder, right? So they want to accomplish something. Who you think they're gonna send? A Paul George, a Willis Reed, a Trey Young? No, they're gonna send Allen Iverson. Why? Because it's the top of the ladder, right? That's why. Okay, so that's how you have a ladder, right? So when they say Allen Iverson, they're in a lot of trouble, but they have to send that monkey, right? And everyone does bad things. Understand? Everyone, right? Everyone does bad things, right? But to a certain degree, right? So monkeys get in trouble often, right? So what are they gonna do? They're gonna send the best person, but they're all combined in that ladder, right? Which is a corporate ladder, right? So they're trying to keep their job at ladder stand, right? And then everyone has their consequences, but no one can take who's on top of the ladder because that is the ladder. Same thing with raccoons, right? So I did not put the 45 in any other NYK, any other number. I have to put Jordan 45 in China, right? Because it's all time travel, right? It's like I did something here, I did something there, I did something there. Sometimes I don't even know why I do it, right? But then that's how you describe eternity, that it's like, oh, it makes sense why this was placed here. And then you could say like, okay, it's like an example, right? I put my shoes here. I don't know why. I just want to put them there, right? And then like I keep putting my shoes there, and then a week later, holy crap! If I would have put my shoes there, someone will get inside and they'll trip because they can't see the shoes, right? And it's like, well, I did that for a reason, on purpose, because mathematically it's too close to the door. That's the reason, that it's like that, right? But I didn't notice, right? I just do things improvise. So you could say I did that so no one trips, but I didn't notice. You see? So I put 45, right? Why? I don't know, right? I don't know why. I just want to put 45 here, right? And one of the reasons was because 45 also means that when you had Cole Aldrich, part of the Avengers 3, Padme peed on my bed, right? So I put, well, I guess wolves pee on places to mark their territory, right? So I put 45 also for that, right? Wolves, when they want to mark their territory, a lot of animals, they'll pee there, right? They'll pee, animals will like mark their territory, right? They'll do something, right? It's like, this is my territory, right? So when someone walks, they'll see something that they did, right? So wolves, right? That's what they do, right? That's what Siberian Huskies do, right? It's the animal, right? So it's like Siberian Huskies like to talk. Okay, so when they want to mark their territory, they pee, right? And that's it, right? So when that happened, also put 45, which is Siberian Huskies are raccoons, right? And but a Siberian Husky, they mark their territory by peeing. There's a film called Wolf with Jack Nicholson, right? And he plays a werewolf, right? So Jack Nicholson is peeing on the urinal, right? He's peeing on the urinal. So then like he starts like peeing somewhere else, right? Because he's becoming a werewolf, right? So you could say that represents that Siberian Huskies pee to mark their territory, right? So you could say like you see them peeing somewhere, and that's it, right? So that's just like animal behavior, right? A lot of animals mark their territory by writing something, right? It's like you see graffiti from people, right? It could be a gang or just teenagers, right? Why are they putting graffiti there? Because they're marking their territory, right? So you could pee somewhere, you could spray, right? Write something. A lot of times, people do it for art, but you're marking your territory, right? Like you have gangs anywhere in the world, and the ones that get hired for ladder stand, right? They're talented, right? So what do gangs do? They wear colors to say that they're that gang, right? Or you could say a cartel, right? Or you could say a mafia, right? They have their territory, right? And if you get near, you're in a lot of trouble. Like in Central America, I believe in certain countries, gangs are so big that they're in control of the country, like above the cops and everything else, right? Because there's so many poor people, right? That the entire country is like almost populated by gangs, right? They all get tattoos, right? But they're not very well done, right? But why do they have all those tattoos? To show you that they're part of that gang, right? And if you mess with them, they'll kill you, right? That's what happens, right? So it's like, for example, there's parts or countries, example Brazil, there's a film called City of God, right? So in that city, right, it's a very poor city, right? But this film is about young kids, like teenagers that are like criminals, right? So the police won't go into that city, right? Because it's run by gangs, right? And it's too many, so there's not enough police to go over there. So they're like, that area we won't go, right? So territories is the same thing that you have in nature, right? Is the same thing. So in nature, right, that is like if you don't have Tracy the wife, that you have with defense, that you have with that, it's Tracy, Nina, Alice, right? But you just say mainly Tracy because of that defense that you have, right? So and with lions is the same thing, right? And what happens in Africa is that you have locations, right? You have water, you have the field, and you have food, right? Which is that you have to get, which is very difficult, right? So there's other lion groups, right? So it's other lion groups, and if they run out of like food or anything like that, it's a group that's gonna try to take over your group, right? So how do they do that? They have to take out, right, the male that's the defense. You see, that's what they have to do, right? So, I mean, the only way they could do it, I guess, they gotta get like a strategy that is overwhelming, that the person that's with the defense, they get rid of them, right? They kill them, right? So if you kill the person that does the defense, then these people take over to the point that they could kill the children and the females, and they take over. right? Oh, we kill all these other lions. Like I said, nature is brutal, and now we have the food and everything, right? So that's how important Tracy is, right? Because that's the defense, right? So you put Tracy, right? Genderless, right? But then it's a male lion, right? How it works in Africa, right? The male lion is the one in charge. Of main job is just to defend, right? So there's one main lion in charge, right? That's a guitar, and that's the one that basically is job is to take care of all the females, right? The lioness, right? And they all get pregnant by the male lion, right? That one. That's how it pretty much works in lion groups, right? So the female lions, they're the ones that go get the food. You see, they get the food. They do the hunting most of the time, right? The male lion could do it, right? But the male lion, the guitar player, which is like the male car, right? But myself is female, right? But then I have a male car, right? And my job is not to really go get food. My job is to just not let anyone get in the territory. So they try to take over everything, and they just want to take the food and things like that. So if they get to myself at the guitar, at the wife, right, the AD1, then they can kill all the females, right? Because they're all females, right? They kill all the women and the cubs, because you call them lion cubs, right? So that's how it works over there, right? So you could say in the Lion King, right? What happens? Well, the villain, the bad guy, kills me, and that's exactly what happens. You see, it's like I'm the main lion, right? And I'm the guitar player at Mufasa, right? So you could say you put that when it comes to lions at Barry Sanders, Alice, right? I'm Alice Barry Sanders. That you put a lion, literally lion. It's Tracy equals lion too, right? But in that case, you put Mufasa, right? So the bad guy takes me out, and what happens? Exactly that, right? Exactly that. But it's like he takes over everything, right? And then you have Daniel Simba. It's like, get out of here, right? Because he's the one next in line, right? And then he makes him think he's responsible for the death, right? And a lot of people cry in that scene, right? A lot of people, because like that's my dad, that's my wife, right? Technically, right? So everybody cries. A lot of people cry in that scene, right? So, but that's exactly what I'm explaining, right? It's a territory, right? So the villain, the bad person, kills me, right? But then what happens? Everything is done the wrong way, right? You give it like a year, and all the food ran out, right? And even like the weather is bad, right? And all the female lionesses are under command of this person, right? The person that did that, right? So the person takes over, right? And everything's wrong, right? This will never happen, right? So it's like saying, if I'm not general manager, right, of doing the things of getting rid of people that are incorrect, and the same thing will happen, right? So the same thing will happen with anything, right? You don't have big sister a captain, you don't have DAD1 a defense, writing the law. You don't have big sister disability. You could say, what will be the responsibility? Big sister disability. Is this a disability, right? You could say that the body won't look how the body looks, right? If you don't have disability, the big sister won't look like the body looks, and then you don't have a blueprint model of how to make a car, right? So you need to have a model blueprint how to make a car. You have that with big sister, but it's also a disability, right? And a big brother, it's very simple, right? You just will never have a husband that does what a husband's supposed to do, right? Let's say that you don't have big brother as a husband. You'll have a husband, right? But does nothing the correct things that a husband's supposed to do, right? They'll do things completely, obviously different, right? So, but that will never happen, as far as like doing the responsibilities, right? People are incorrect, right? And what happens with incorrect people, right? They don't have the ice cream anymore, right? They're fire, etc. Okay, right? So that will never happen of at the ice cream doing our task, right? But those movies teach you what happens, right? That's what happens. You take out the main person, right? You remove the main person, and then someone else will step in, will do that, and they'll do things much different, right? That happens with anything of the ice cream, but what happens with the ice cream, right? People that are incorrect don't get to have the ice cream anymore, right? I want chocolate, I want vanilla, I want strawberry. Well, you cannot get any more ice cream because you're incorrect, and that's it, right? Okay, so what happens in those movies, right? It's like people take out the main person in charge, right? That could never happen with myself at the ice cream. People are just, you can't have the ice cream anymore, right? But what is explained in those movies that if you do, it's like in those movies, what happens is this, right? The incorrect person is not removed. The incorrect person is placed on the main responsibility, right? That's what happens in those movies. What happens in those movies? Well, in real life, the incorrect person gets removed, right? But these are just stories, right? These are just stories. What if the ice cream wasn't there at all, and doesn't get rid of the incorrect person, which is what happens, right? With myself as general manager, I get rid of the incorrect person, and that's it, right? So in these movies, it's a story. What if the incorrect person gets rid of the person in charge of whatever situation, and then the incorrect person becomes in charge, right? Then everything gets out of control. You see, that's what those movies teach you. They teach you that it's a person that's incorrect, right? And instead of being removed, they take out the main person doing that whatever responsibility, and then they start doing the responsibility, and everything gets completely out of control. It becomes bad, right? But they're just stories, right? But they're there to teach you that. That will never happen with Neapolitan ice cream, right? But there's stories to teach you that, right? So what happens in Lion King, that everything becomes worse. Taking out the wife, the AD1, that you could say is a Barry Sanders, right? Mainly, right? But you could say it's Tracy Nina Alice, but it's mainly Barry Sanders because of the Lion and Detroit, right? But you always say like the main defense will be Tracy, right? But we'll put Barry Sanders because it's Detroit, right? And it's the Lions, right? So that's exactly what happens there, right? But then Simba Daniel, right, which is NYK24, goes and be like, this is wrong, right? It wasn't my fault that the wife died, so I'm here to restore how things are supposed to be, and I'm the person that should be doing this, you know, after the wife, well, you know, body vehicle decays, right? So what happens at the end, right? Everything is not good, and Daniel Simba, you know, gets rid of the incorrect person. Well, not incorrect lion, right? It's not a person, right? And everything becomes good, right? And then he has a kid, and then the kid will be the next person in charge, right? With a female lion, right? So that movie is my favorite movie because it teaches you that, right? Not only does it teach you that, but it also teaches you the food cycle, right? How everything works. And that's where you have Project Mayhem, right? You can never get rid of the food cycle, right? I'll go to a restaurant, right? And if you see a food that's being 2118 part of the food cycle, you order it, right? And you're like this. You see what I'm eating? Yeah. Have you seen all those videos of how this animal gets treated? Yeah. You're supposed to get rid of these people, right? That's how things work, you see? You're supposed to get rid of these people. It's not being vegan, right? Why am I getting this food? You're not supposed to go vegan. What you're supposed to do is do the proper thing, keep it in a humane environment, and then with one shot, with like a silencer, you get rid of them, right? You don't get rid of them, right? Well, you have to kill them, right? But in a humane way, you see? When you go to Africa, right? Lions are supposed to get animals, right? But they don't have a silencer gun. I'm saying silencer because it's not like boom. It's like pew, pew, that you have like a hitman, like you have a at Montana J316, James Bond, right? If you're a hitman, the person's not even know that you're there, and no one's gonna know that you killed them. It's like, pew, right? So you could say you could have a weapon, like a silencer, that you're gonna kill the animal, whether it's cow, chicken, or pig, right? But it's like the animal's not even gonna know, right? You have to kill, but in the food cycle, everyone has to kill, right? But it has to be in a humane way, right? So people have no excuse of not doing things in one shot, right? That's why you put the Eminem song, right, in 8 Mile, because that one shot applies to anything, but mainly is to not get in trouble in the food cycle, right? Animals kill in a very brutal way, right? Because they don't have a freaking gun that will kill in one shot, right? Which is like a silencer, right? That you call humane, right? So when you do that, the animal doesn't even know that you're gonna do that, and they're taken out right away, right? So what happens with that song? That's what the song's about. I put that song. You only have one bullet in a gun, right, to kill this animal, and then you don't get in trouble, right? If you do it any other way, that is now with a gun, because now you have weapons, then you're gonna get in trouble, right? Because that's not in one shot. It won't be considered humane, right? You have 2118, right? Those people are inhumane, right? The Nazis, all those people, whether it's China or another place, the Nazis are inhumane, right? So what would be the appropriate song? Well, Dodgers, Pistons, Inhumane Harvest, right? Which is like having a surgery without anesthesia, falling asleep, right? That's basically what it is. What does that guy do? Well, he has to remove a part of the body, right? But it's like the job in the war is that you're gonna do it without the person being asleep, right? If you're gonna remove any part of the body, right, you're supposed to get the proper things to put the person asleep, right? And then you sew them up, and that's it, right? But in Inhumane Harvest, it's like, okay, we're gonna take your part of your organs to sell it, right? And basically, but we're not gonna put you to sleep. You're gonna be awake, right? Because all those tools are literally used, right? Is that you're gonna make some type of surgery. You need a scalpel. You need things to open to do whatever surgery, right? But you're asleep. You don't feel it, right? Then you feel it when you're awake and you have the stitches and whatever, right? There's people that get brain surgery, right? You're not gonna be literally feeling things when you get brain surgery, right? People in sports get injuries in their knees or whatever, right? So you get surgeries in your knees and they open everything up, right? But you're asleep, right? So imagine if they don't put you to sleep. They do your brain, they do this, they have to do a heart surgery. That will be torturous, right? So Inhumane Harvest is just like a real surgeon, right? But he's waiting to do the surgery without putting you to sleep. You see, like a surgeon is a person that goes to school for a lot of years, right? So those years, they practice with corpses, right? It's like you have a dead person, so they're gonna practice with the dead person, right? They practice with the dead person, they practice with real parts, right? So when they have the surgery, usually that person is about to die, right? So you have like the person has cancer or a body part's not working and they have to take it out, right? So they practice that, right? But they do it with someone that's passed away, which is a corpse, right? So the surgeons practice and practice and practice, right? So then it's a person like, I have cancer, right? I'm about to die, right? So then they're like, we have to open you up and take that out, right? But the surgeon has practiced that their entire life, right? And you have to go to school for a lot of years, right? You get a lot of degrees, right? So in Cannibal Corpse, you have a surgeon that's all he does, but it's not gonna put you to sleep, right? And it's just getting your organs and selling them, how would you say, to people. That's why you have the person counting money. But it's killing people, you see? It's like, you have 2118, right? All they do is kill helicopters, right? What you don't know, right, is that you don't see it on TV, right? But this really happens, right? People are, okay, like people need organs, right? A lot of times people have problems with health, right? So what do? They need organs, and they'll pay a lot of money, right? It's like, I don't want someone to die. I need this organ to live, right? So there's people that will kidnap people, right? And they will take away their organs, right? And they'll sell them for a lot of money, right? But most of the time, a lot of people, they don't even know what happens, right? They'll be sleeping somewhere, they don't know, they take them, right? They wake up in a tub, right? They wake up in a tub, and they're like, what am I doing here in the tub? And they see a stitch, right? And they were asleep the entire time, right? But it's like, holy crap, someone took a body part, and they just dropped me off in a tub. That's what it's like, the story, right? But what you don't know, right? A lot of people don't know. It's like, when someone wants to torture you, right? Literally, they'll do that, right? They won't put you to sleep, right? They'll have a real surgeon opening you up alive, right? But this time is like to kill you, not to keep you alive, right? A lot of times they could take a body part, but you could still live, depending on the body part, right? So in this case, in the video, it's like, they're gonna open you up while you're still awake, but this time you're not gonna live, right? But the person's there to torture you, to the point that even at the end, like, takes the person's eyeballs, right? So it's a business, right? So they have a lot of people they kidnap, right? But they're adults. You see, they're not kidnapping children. You see like a row of adults, and they're all kidnapped, right? So you see what happens in China, right? Well, you get a lot of money for people. You understand? It's like, oh, you this just happens to helicopters, right? But you get a lot of people, grown adults, that get kidnapped, right? Especially in places like Central America, right? Guatemala, Mexico, El Salvador, this and that, right? You see what they do in China with doggies? Well, they'll do that with people. You see? Why? To like do whatever it is. We want money, or we kill this person, right? What? Then we'll send you their finger or something like that to show you that we need money. That's why they do it, right? They need money, right? So then those people are hired by myself to do that in China to all these people, right? That's their job, right? The status that the Nazis are winning the war because they're killing so much hell cops, that's true, right? So then the army needs to do a better job of getting rid of more of these people until they throw the white flag, right? That's it, right? Because that's it, right? So in 2118, it's much simpler to kidnap a hell cop, right? It's much simpler. The hell cop cannot really fight like a person, right? But when you have people doing this to other people, it's much more difficult, right? Because people could fight back, right? A person could fight back, a person could talk, a person could get a weapon, right? So the people are professional, so they have to do certain things to get that person when they least expect it, right? So they do that with adults, right? So they'll kidnap for money, right? And if you don't send the money, they'll kill the person, right? With cartels and all these people, right? Like literally, it's like the Yulin festival, but with people. You see heads, arms, this and that, right? So then I hire those people. You see, so you're gonna go to war, yeah. You see what they do to animals in China, right? With helicopters, yeah, especially doggies, right? Okay, you know that's you in a car, right? Okay, you see what I do? I see what you do to these people, right? Now I need you to do this to these Nazis, right? That's it. That's the job, right? So when you have myself with Gabriel representing myself, Brad Pitt, and Glorious Bastards, that's what I hired people to do, right? Except that it's everyone together. It's like, I just need you to go to China, and you need to bring me some proof that you get rid of Nazis, right? That's the main payment for me. I need any body part, right, from these Nazis in China, that you're doing your job, right? If you don't do that, then I get rid of the person, right? And it's like, I thought you were a killer, man, right? I thought you were a gang member. I thought you were a cartel. I thought you were a mafia, and you haven't bring me any body parts. What's going on, man? And if you don't meet the deadline, then it's like, I'm gonna look for another cartel, mafia, or gang member that they're like, hey, I'm not gonna I'm gonna just work for you. I work for this gang, cartel, or mafia, but it's like, let me see your resume, right? Okay. What have you done to people? Okay. How many people have you killed? Okay. So now you're gonna work for me, ladder stand. You can work for another company, and I like the resume that you have. You see, it's like I need the footage or this and that, right? So it's like, okay, now if you work for me, you work for me full time, and whatever money you're getting from this cartel, mafia, or what do you might call it, gang, right? I'm gonna give you more money with more benefits, right? And it's an army, right? And the cops can do nothing to you, right? So it's up to you, right? I'll give the person the contract, right? And it's like, if you want to do it, that's it, right? But then I tell the person, right? Once you get the job, right, you have responsibilities, right? So you're supposed to give me like body parts or this and that. I need to see like torture things that these people are, right? But if you don't do your job like any other job, then you get fired. It's like, hey, what's happened here, huh? Like it's been like 2 months, right? And it's like, okay, I'm gonna count the weeks. Okay, it's 4 weeks, 8 weeks, right? So what have you given me in 8 weeks? You need to meet the deadline of giving me all these Chinese Nazis that you have gotten rid of, right? That you clean, right? But in torture, right? It's like, I hired you, right? Because you gave me a resume as a gang, cartel, or mafia, right? I was like, you're talented, right? But now you go work for me, which is the army, right? It's not the same thing, right? The army is not that, it's the army, you see? So the whole thing with that is like, once you're in the army, the police can do nothing to you, right? The cop sees you, it's like, oh, I know who you are, right? Okay, no problem. You're part of the army. You work with MOM3, right? But the person could say whatever they want, but they have to sign the paper, right? It's like, once you're there, you have all these instructions, right? And that's it. It's a job, right? It's a job, right? It's not for everyone. I tell people, you think anyone could do this job? Of course not. A lot of people can do that job, right? So the most talented people are the people that will end up in jail, but I give them an opportunity not to end up in jail, work for me, make a lot of money, and then you don't have to rely on a group of people, right? If you're a person, part of a mafia, cartel, or gang, usually you're just a person there. You're not a main person, right? So it's very simple. You tell the person, look, I got a job in the army, right? I want to join the army, right? And most of them will be like, oh, MOM3, cool. Are you sure you want to do that? Yeah, because it's full time, right? So the cartel, mafia, or gang won't have a problem because they know how I work, right? So the main person in charge, that's their franchise, you see? That's their franchise, right? But a person is like an employee saying like, I found a job with MOM3 and I know I've had a really good time here getting rid of people, right? But I want to join the army, right? So the only thing the person in the gang, cartel, or mafia is going to tell you, are you sure? Are you sure you want to join the army? Because it's the army, right? It's not a cartel. It's not a mafia. It's not a gang. It's myself. It's the army, right? You want to join the army, right? So the person will say, I want to join the army. With me, they know what it is, right? So they'll have no problem with it. The only thing the cartel, mafia, or gang's going to tell you, are you sure you want to do that, right? Because a lot of people join the army. They have to get accepted, right? Then the person will be like, yeah. And then the person will be like, I hope you the best, right? And good luck. And like, say hello to mom, right? Because I'm everyone's mom, right? So even the person in the mafia, cartel, or gang, they know who I am, right? Say hello to mom, right? She's cool, right? I'm everyone's mom, right? So basically, then the person chooses to do that, right? So you have your resume, right? So once you sign the paper, I'm joining the army, right? So after that, you're not gonna join another army, you see? That's it. You know, you're not gonna join any other army, right? The cartel, the mafia, and the and the gang is not an army, right? Once you join the army, you sign that paper, right? If you have any part of any other army, then you get fired, released, right? And that's it. It's on the paper, right? And there's nothing else to say about that, right? So that's how you describe that, right? So then, once you sign those papers and you join the army, you have to meet that deadline, right? If you don't meet that deadline, with the example, going to Mars, you have Jordan 45, which is 45, right? And you don't give me that you've cleaned, right? You have to show that you clean. It's like, give me the photos of the people you've killed, like in your resume. Oh wow, that's pretty good kills, right? It's a war, right? Oh, show me footage. Oh, that's pretty good footage, right? Footage, right, of all the people, humans or hybrids, right? So then it's like, all right, you did your job. Here's your salary. These are your benefits, and you're good with everyone. And the police will say, good job, the cops, right? Okay, so that's everyone, right? So if you do a really good job, right, which is discipline, 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 right? It's the army, right? Discipline, 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 being very organized, and the main thing will be obeying all orders, right? You're given an order as a soldier, you have to obey it, right? So you do all those things, you never have to worry about ever losing your job, right? And the only thing that's gonna happen, like anywhere else, you're gonna go up in the ladder of being a soldier, right? But you go up in the ladder by the main thing, by being obedient, right? You have a task, right? Today your task is to do this. You have to do those things. If you don't do it, you're not obeying, right? You're not obeying. You're disobeying, right? So a person that does that every day, they go from a rank from a soldier all the way higher to the top, right? And they get that ranking, but it takes a lot of years, right? It's an army, right? So people that will sign and they get fired is because they don't do any of those things that I just mentioned, right? They do something with another army, and the main thing will be they're not obedient, right? That's why Big Sister at the Joker tells you those things. You see, Big Sister is not the general manager or the head coach, right? But Big Sister tells you, if you want to be a good soldier, me train you, right? You have to do all these things. Right? If you don't do them, then you won't, right? It's like you go to the driver's license. A lot of people got fired. There's positions open, right? A lot of people got fired. There's positions open. You go to the driver's license. It doesn't mean you're gonna get a license, right? You have to do all these 5 things. Once you do that, you get the paper, you get your license, and you go train with Big Sister, right? That you say is your favorite player, your role model, right? Okay, so then when you're a soldier, you keep everything, but not doing anything with another army and obeying every instruction. You have to obey. You disobey any instruction, boom, out, right? Because that's the standard, right? It's ladder stand, that's the standard, right? So there's a lot of soldiers that go, and I'm like, out. Why? This ladder stand, you didn't go with the standards, right? You disobeyed because you didn't do one of these things. You have a lot of things to do, but I tell you, and it's on the paper, you have a job, right? It's a job. It's not free. You're getting a salary, right? So if you have to be obedient and do all these things, and at the end of the day, right, it's like from 12 a.m., because that's when the day begins, right? From 12 a.m., right, till 6 p.m., from 6 p.m. to 12 a.m., right? Because it's half of the day. You say day and night, right? So I'm putting half of a day and the entire day, just as an example, right? So you put 12 a.m., 6 a.m. represents night, right? We're just putting it like that, right? And then 6 a.m. Again, right? All the way to 12 a.m., that represents night, right? It's an example, right? So during that time, you have a lot of things to do, all right? I put a list. Every day you have to do these things. I'm paying you money, right? I'm giving you a salary, and I'm giving you a real good salary, right? You have to do all these things. That is why you're hired, right? You're hired to do that. You don't do it, I'm like, I got rid of you. What happened this day? What? You forgot to do this. Like, you did not do it, right? And then, like, I'll do like the weekly check. Okay, look at this other day. There's another thing. You did not do this other thing. It wasn't the same thing, but you did not do this thing. What happened there, right? And then I'll go like that, and I go towards the entire week, and I go, look, out of the entire week, there were like maybe 4 days, right, that you did not do one of the things. It was not the same thing, but like this day you didn't do that, right? And then we're going to like what you're supposed to do as your job. This day you didn't do this, and this day you didn't do that. This day you didn't do this. Okay, here's your check. You're not getting another one out, right? That's what it is, right? Because at the end of the week you get your check, right? So I go like this. All right, here I'm gonna sign it. Here's your check. It's your last check. Get out of here. What? Out. What? You get your check, right? But you see, I'm giving you a check that and you did not even do those things, right? So be even glad that I'm giving you a check. You see? It's like I could easily go like this, you know, it's like I'm not gonna give you a check because you didn't do those things, right? So it's like I'll point out, look, I'm doing something a lot of people won't do, right? You didn't do your job in 4 days out of the week, whatever is you need to do at whatever time of day or night. At day or night, you're supposed to do something. That's when you get paid, right? So you have 4 days in 7 days, okay? So then I'll go like this. All right, I'm gonna give you your check, even though you did not do your job. See, who's gonna do that? All right. So I'm being very, very good at least doing that, right? It's like you didn't do your job, these things, but I'm gonna pay you like if you did those things, but you did not do it, right? You didn't do these things on these 4 days, and they were all different things, right? But I'm gonna pay you like you did it, right? Okay. But the thing is, this is your last check, right? This is your last check, right? So then the person will be like, it's their own fault, but it's like, well, and they're like, what else do you want? At least I gave you your check, and I paid you, right? And you didn't do those things, right? It's like I let someone do that, right? So the person is like, what are you gonna do? You don't want me to give you that check? Right? Because you didn't do those things, right? Okay, because when you don't do those things, it says in the contract that everything is declined, right? Which means like you don't even. It's like it's like you didn't do that for 4 days, right? 4 days, you just completely left that out, right? It wasn't once. It's like 4 days, right? So that's it. That's way too much, right? So after that, it's like you should not get a check whatsoever, because if you leave out even just 1 day, a lot of bad things could happen, right? You don't do one of the responsibilities for 1 day, right? And everything will go, who did that? And it messes up everybody, right? Not one person, it's a company, it's a group, right? So you don't do your job for 1 day, right? And then affects everybody, right? And everything goes like this, who did that? Yo, this person messed everything up, right? And it was just one thing, right? So then it's like, yo, get this person out, and then don't even give them a check, right? Look what the person did. What? It messed the entire group, right? So it's like, yeah, the person worked during the day, but it messed up everything. Now we have to fix everything here, right? So it's like, that person doesn't deserve a check, right? But then it shows you how I am, right? It's like, okay, everyone's like, don't even give the person money because he messed everything up for all of us, right? So I give the example that I still give the person the check, but I just go, this is the last check I give you. You see, I sign it, this is the last check, right? And then I say, like, this is the contract, right? You have to do all your responsibilities, right? You have day and night, then you have to do something. You didn't do one of those things, and you see what happened to the entire army as a group, right? That's your job. I'm paying you for that. You signed a paper saying that you are going to do those things, right? If you don't do those things, then you get fired, right? You get yourself fired, and then I just get rid of the person like that. I go out, right? And that's it, right? But at least I give the person a check, right? Then when that happens, guess what? The entire army has to fix those things, right? It's like, this person messed up this thing, right? This person's not gonna be here again. So then everyone has to fix what that person didn't do, right? Because that person didn't do that thing for 1 day, and now everyone's in trouble, right? And the people that have nothing to do with it have to fix it, right? All these people have nothing to do with it, and they have to fix it, right? So that's what happens with a person, and that's what's in the contract. Everyone is responsible to do all those things, right? It's like, so it's a job, right? Being a soldier is a career, right? So then I'm giving the example that someone doesn't do their things, one thing, different thing for 4 days. That's really bad, right? So then when get rid of a person, that's it, they're out. They're not part of ladder stand, which is the army, right? So the people that stay in the army, every day they do all the instructions are given day or night. They do it every day, every day, every day, right? So what happens with those people, they move up in the soldier rank, right? To the point that they're not just a soldier, they're boom, boom, boom. And that's it. They get a way better job, they get a bigger salary, and they get more benefits and all those things, right? So that's what happens, right? So that's why I get rid of all those people, right? If you keep those people, right, then everyone is gonna be in a very bad situation. So that's why I'm very cold, right? I have to be cold to keep everything in correct, right? I'm very cold, right? I don't. It's like I don't care what relationship I have with a person, right? As far as like that I know them, this and that for years, whatever, right? But if they don't do the responsibility, I have to be cold and be like out, right? I give them their check, but then it's like out, right? That's it, right? And they can't work there again, right? It's like once I fire the person, they're never gonna work in ladder stand again, right? That's why I tell a person that it's like there's a lot of people that couldn't go in before because that person had a job, right? So then there's a lot of people trying to apply, right? But it's not easy. You have to give your resume, this and that, and then I have to look at it, and then I have to look at another person, and I have to choose out of all these people who I'm gonna choose to fill that spot, right? It's one spot, right? That I tell someone just out. I give them their check and they left, right? And that's it, right? So when that happens, there's a lot of people that want that one spot, right? So then everyone is gonna try to show their best performance, abilities, things to do. That is like whatever it is, right? I'm organized. I'm very obedient. I'm very polite. I'm very golden rule. I'm very good at killing this and that or whatever, soldier, right? So then I have to look at all these people, right, and see what happens, right? But like I said, with a draft, you don't know if they're gonna live up to the potential, right? Or maybe they will overachieve, right? That's why I get rid of people all the time. You just don't know. I pick the person, right? I see potential, but then it's up to them, right? I pick this person, right? I see potential, but then it's up to them, right? And how do you know that? Because I fire people all the time, you see? So that's what I'm saying. When you draft, you just, nothing's guaranteed, right? But when it doesn't work out, you get rid of the person. Boom, 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 right? So that's what happens, right? So when you sign that contract from somewhere else, and you're not famous at all, which is what I do, that's a draft. You see, that's a draft, right? That's why in armies you're like, the army's drafting, right? There's a draft towards the army, right? And then the army drafts the people, but you don't know if they're gonna be good soldiers, right? That's with the army, right? So that's what happens at ladder stand, right? So you're not famous and then you move up, right? But like I said, when you're a soldier, you're individual, right? You're by yourself. You're in an NYK number, but you're by yourself, right? So it's a whole bunch of NYK numbers, but they're by themselves, right? And then the person, everyone, depending on how good they are, they stay within ladder stand. They stay within the army, Project Mayhem, right? Everything that I say in Project Mayhem, that's what goes. No one's in charge, right? If big sister, they want the wife, big brother, right? That's 1, 2, 3. They try to do something with management, taking someone back. No, I'm the only one that calls that. Anyone could put anything, right? In a movie, in a story, in a comic book. I'm the only one that's in charge of everything that has to do with management, right? Everything with general manager, management, hiring, firing people, looking for talent, that's me, right? The other part of the ice cream has a responsibility that's not mine, right? So when you have anything with firing, hiring people, that's myself, right? That you have. Project Mayhem, right? Right? And the instruction is, I'm the strawberries. If anyone tries to do anything with myself that is like, I want my job back, someone this, please don't fire me, don't do this, whatever, and I just fire the person and someone tries to intervene with that, I'm the strawberries. Hold the person down, get rid of their strawberries, which is testicles, right? And then if it's a female, it's another part, right? So if any other part of the ice cream tries to do that, it's the same thing, right? Because we're individuals, right? So you have that in Fight Club, right? So how you describe that is that all NYK numbers represent me, right? But no one's the same, right? It's only one individual, one. There's no one else. They have the behavior, and that avatar is actually myself and whatever it is that I do, whether it's an actor, producer, director, athlete, whatever, right? So when you have myself, I'm the director, right? But I'm also the manager, right? When you have films, everything that's done on the film, I'm the director, I'm the manager, right? So basically, to give you the example, right? There's no other NYK37 that is Stanley Kubrick. There's no other one, right? And how do you know Stanley Kubrick? Because of the behavior, right? Stanley Kubrick is basically OCD, right? So that's a disability. So that's myself, that I will do things over and over and over and over and over and over again, right? So then it's like you tell a person, right? I want to work with Stanley Kubrick, director at MOM3, and I'll tell the person, I don't think you can work with me. Why? Because with OCD, you're gonna do a scene over and over and over and over, right? We're talking about directing, right? So it's like a lot of people might want to work with me, but I have to approve. Just like the army. You see what I did with the army? Yeah. Well, it's the same thing, right? It's like the person that you say I work with the most is Commissioner Gordon, that you have right there, Steven Spielberg, right? If there's someone, right, that you can say that it's definitely, you could say that I work with, that you have as a reference, is Steven Spielberg, right? Right, that you have Stevens, which is 18, right, which are part of the food cycle, pigs, right? So that's who I work with, right? But we're talking about directing, right? So with that, you could say as an example, as a reference, right? It's like if I have someone that I know it works good with me, follows every order, I could refer them to any director, right? Because technically, a director is a teacher, right? But myself, a director, my job is obviously to teach, right? Also, through how the film looks. See, I teach how the film looks visually, right? But I'm MOM3, right? So no one can get their job back if I fire them, and that's it, right? So the thing that I could do is a person, an actor, right? An actor has to look for a job all the time, right? So a person could do a film with myself, and then they need to find another job, right? Because it's something else, right? So it's like what I tell people, right? The best way to explain that, right? You have, I'll put as an example, right? Subway, Panda Express, we're talking about restaurants, right? Subway, Panda Express, we'll put let's see, what kind of a store? JCPenney, that's an example, right? And Macy's, right? Okay, so just like an actor, you work at those stores, you see? You work at those stores, but the person that owns those companies is the one that has billions and billions of dollars, right? So how much do you get paid to be an actor, work at that store? You say like very little, right? Which is like maybe like $16 to $20, right? You get paid $16 to $20 to work at that store, right? Then you don't do what you're supposed to do, obedient, you get fired, right? So it's $1 billion company, But when the company makes all that money, you see this person that could work, I don't know, like any part of the store, and they're always there and they're very good. Oh, I'm gonna go to these stores because that person's very good. Right. The person could be like the face that you recognize when you go to the store, right? But the person makes no money, right? And the person could lose their job at any time, right? So it's the same thing with movies, right? The studios get all the money, right? So once the film is over, the actor it needs to get another job. You see, the actors are not the company. See, the companies are the companies, right? But once the film is over, they move on to another movie and they hire different actors, and they move on to another movie and they hire different actors, right? I'll give the example, right? Directors don't make a lot of money either, right? Directors, writers, producers, they don't make a lot of money, right? So actors don't make a lot of money either, right? Whenever you have a successful film, right? Like all these films that are of all time, right? None of those actors that could be the face of the movie make that much money. Neither does the director, neither does the writer or the producers, right? They don't make that much money compared to, you see what the studio makes, right? So with myself, I am my own company, so I do make all the results, right? Because it is my company, right? So you could say everyone wants to work with me, right? Because of what I do, right? Because of the whole thing. But then I tell the person, right? You see all these people that want to work with me, but it's like, man, I have OCD, right? So I do things over and over and over and over and over again, right? So that's where you go that there's only one Stanley Kubrick, right? Because that's an NYK-37, right? But it's not any other NYK-37, right? So you have Stanley Kubrick, right? And it's just like the raccoons, right? You see all these raccoons? Yeah. Okay. There's only one that did something weird, right? So then it's like, you see all these NYK-37s. Yeah. Which one's Stanley Kubrick, right? Out of all these NYK-37s. The one doing things over and over and over and over and over and over, right? That's Stanley Kubrick. The person's doing things all over again. Hey, stop! What? So there's only one. There's a lot, 37 everywhere, right? But then you look 37, it says Stanley Kubrick, right? That's what it says, right? So when you have Kubrick, is the shots, right? It's like I'm filming. Oh, let me do it again. Let me do it again. Right? So I have to work very hard to just do it as fast as possible, right? So what happens with that is that's how you know the person represents me. You see, that's me. What? Stanley Kubrick, right? So to represent me, he did that all the time. It's like for 5 minutes, you work for 2 weeks. Why? Because with Stanley Kubrick, because it says NYK-37 Stanley Kubrick. How do you know? Because he did 100 takes, right? Which took a very long time to do for a simple scene, right? So what other NYK-37 did that? No one, right? Who? Nobody else did that. Like no one, right? It's like I give the example, right? NYK-37s are Kane's Wolverines, right? But none of them are the same, right? Giving the example, right? Let me give you the example of different Wolverines, right? You have, let me see, John Wall, right? John Wall, right? So John Wall will fall into the category of Mary Elizabeth Winstead, the girl that plays Ramona Flowers, right? Okay, that's only John Wall, you see? Like Mary Elizabeth Winstead, right? Have you seen Scott Pilgrim versus the World? Yeah. Okay, that's a Wolverine Kane. Okay, you see her face? Yeah. Okay, that is like John Wall. Okay, that's it. That's the only one. Is there another Mary Elizabeth Winstead, John Wall? No. Okay, so who is technically like John Wall? Ramona Flowers and Scott Pilgrim, right? So then that's how you do that, right? You see, look at all these Wolverine Kings, right? NYK37s. Out of all these people, right? Whether they're tall, short, skinny, fat, muscular, right? Which one of these NYK37s, because there's a room, play Ramona Flowers, right? And I'll go like this. Which one? Which one play the female as Scott Pilgrim, right? Which one, right? And you have all these females, right? So basically, that's how you describe that. But you have a room with 100 NYK37, and I keep saying that. I'm not saying Kane or Wolverine because it's a number, see? So NYK37, you have 137s, right? But only Mary Elizabeth Winstead play Ramona Flowers, right? Why? Look at her. Look how she looks at her body. Play Ramona Flowers, right? And then you have a John Wall, right? So that's the example. That's only one NYK37, right? You go to a classroom, you sit on a chair, right? It says NYK37. It's 100 desks. I was like, Mary Elizabeth, John Wall, here. Okay, see? And then you have all the other 99 37s. This 37 here, this 37 here. Okay, so then like, okay, out of all these 37s, I only want this one to stay. Why? Because this one's chosen. You see? It's like everybody leave, only this one's chosen. This NYK37, right? And you put NYK 37, and you go like, you're gonna play Ramona Flowers, and you're like basically John Wall, right? Well, you're John Wall, Ramona Flowers. That's it. It's only you, right? That's why I told everyone else to leave, right? So it's the same thing with Stanley Kubrick, right? It's like you do it over and over and over and over and over, right? So you have a room with 130 NYK37s, right? And it's the same thing. Everyone leave, right? And you have all these 37s leave, and it's like you did those shots like 100 times until it was perfect, right? You represent me. You see? You did those shots until it was perfect, right? That you have me at the disability, right? You have me that at the disability, but you're the director, right? So since you have that disability and you're the director, you represent me. You see? That's how that works, right? So that's why you have no to racism, right? So you have a classroom of NYK37s, and only Mary Elizabeth plays Ramona Flowers, and you have that John Wall, right? That's it. Only Mary Elizabeth, right? And then you have Stanley Kubrick, who does 100 shots because the person wants things to be perfect, right? To the point that it's like, this needs to be like this, it needs to be like that, like everything needs to be perfect, don't touch it, this and that, this and that. I go, you're the man for the job. Everyone else leave, 99 37, right? So that's how you hire people. That person represents me, right? So everything that has done, that's representing myself, right? So that's the history with you could say Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and you could say Stanley Kubrick, right? And that's why you have the cup over there, right? Put the cup right there, right? And that's it, right? So that's why you have that. That's how you do no racism, right? Out of 100 people, you're only gonna pick one, right? And you see a whole bunch of 27s. Boom. They're all leaving that classroom. It's like, oh, that's a lot of 37s, right? And then after a while, then you see me walking outside with Mary Elizabeth Winstead, right, as an example, right? And then Stanley Kubrick passed away, but then you see me with Stanley Kubrick like that, right? And you see him with like 100 shots on one thing, right? Like Mary Elizabeth Winstead, you could say, is basically I grew up with a family, and I have like a cousin named Elizabeth, right? Literally, I have I wouldn't say cousin, but like through family, right? And you could say that's Mary Elizabeth Winstead, right? Someone that lives in like Georgia, right? Something like that, right? Growing up, and you see how the person looks like Mary Elizabeth Winstead, right? But that's like all the way like in Georgia, right? So where does Mary Elizabeth originate from? From that part, Georgia, right? She plays Ramona Flowers. How? Look what she looks like. What? Look at her body, her face. It looks like Ramona Flowers, right? Myself, that you have you could say at the wife, the one Tracy Nina Atlas, right? Looks like the character, right? So she looks like the character, plays a character, and that's John Wall, right? There's a lot of people, but there's only one John Wall, right? And that's it. That's how you know it's Mary Elizabeth Winstead, what she looks like, right? And then you know Stanley Kubrick because basically it's 100 shots on one, right? So then you have people talking about my career, and they're saying how good my directing is, right? So then you say like a lot of people want to work with me, even though I do those things, right? Which I find very hard to believe, right? Or you want to work with a person that does like 100 shots, right? So like a lot of people are there, but then I choose the people I want to work with, right? It's like that's myself as a general manager. A person could be begging for myself to put them in a film, right? But then I go like there's a lot of people trying out, right? Which the main thing with myself is always the same thing, right? Is obedience, right? With myself, right? Because when it's like when I make a film, right? Any film, you have to make it look the way I want the film to look, because a film you're teaching something, right? So the person has to obey 100% everything, right? Which is like, I give the example, right? This scene you have to go like that, right? So I want you to stand like this, right? You have to be obedient, right? So if the person stands like this, then oh, you're fired. Well, no, I told you to stand like this. That's the scene, right? But then the person keeps standing like that, right? No. I tell you to stand like this, right? And the person stands like this again. All right, out of here, right? Get out. What? Out. You're not part of my film anymore, right? Because that's what I want the film to look like. I'm not doing, it's an example, right? I'm not doing 100 shots, but that's where you see the OCD, you see? It's like the film, the part, you have to stand like this, right? And action, right? The person's not standing like this, right? The person's standing like that, right? Like, no, man. And the person keeps doing it, right? And it's like, out, right? So what's that called? Obedience, right? So whatever I tell the person to do, they have to do it, right? And then you have the film, and the film turns out to be the way that it is, right? It's like you put the Avengers trilogy, right? It took me 6 months to do that, right? 6 months, right? Well, 2 and 3, right? All right, that's me, Stanley Kubrick, right? Well, Stanley Kubrick, right? It took me 6 months to do how many minutes? Number 2 is like 13 minutes or 12 minutes, and then the other one is you do it 15, right? About 15 minutes, right? And you see, like the number 15 is Hugin and Mooning, right? 15 means Hugin and Mooning, and those are the ravens, right? That's what the thing is, right? Hugin Moonies, right? I'll describe right here, right? Hugins and Moonies are ravens, right? 1533, right? Right there, right? And you say that with Hugin Mooning, that's J.J. Redick that you have there, right? But the problem with Hugins and Moonings is that they have the biggest history of getting fired, right? Like the number 15 is a bad number, right? The number 15 defines that is a lot of people getting fired, right? It's not a good number, man. It's a bad number. I'm just telling you right now, right? So everything that happened in what was it? Everything that happened in Chatsworth, right? The kitchen was a 15. The last number you ever want to see is 15, because all you're gonna think is I'm getting fired, right? No matter what the company makes, it's like, for example, you have, I'll give the biggest example, right? The best Star Wars are the original, right? But they didn't make a lot of money compared to now, right? The new Star Wars, people don't really like that much, right? And if you go, like, as an example, on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics is the most important, right? The critics is the most important, not the audience as much, right? The audience is You could have people that don't really know anything about movies and they like it, right? The biggest example would be Transformers, right? Transformers, I don't know why people like those films. To me, Transformers, after the first one, are one of the, I would say, films that are just not good, right? Not good. But it has a good audience. I don't know why people like those movies, right? But I'm not people. I can't stop people from saying, oh, I like this movie, and it's like, it's a horrible story, right? For myself, right? But those movies are one of the top making money movies of all time, right? So because a movie makes a lot of money, it doesn't mean it's a good story, right? So you know it's a good story when you look at the critics in Rotten Tomatoes, right? So if you go below 60, it's an F, right? It's a great for school, right? You have creative writing, right? So the best films are the films that really don't make money, right? When you go to the Academy Awards, right? Which movie that was an Oscar is like a blockbuster film? None, right? When does like a superhero comic book film, cartoon get nominated for best story? Never, really, right? So those movies, the movies that make a lot of money, are not the films that get you a good grade in school, right? It's like you fail. Why? Because you have a bad story, right? But the person will be like, I made a lot of money, like Transformers, right? Transformers are one of the biggest money-making films of all time, you could say, right? But they're really bad stories, right? It's like if I could think of a franchise, right, that makes bad stories, but people just go and breaks records and it has a bad Rotten Tomatoes, Transformers, right? So with that, it shows that that's why these movies don't get Academy Awards, right? Creative writing is Academy Awards, right? So the movies that really get good grades are the movies that make no money, right? so that's the example, right? It's like they got to a point that I went to see a Transformers film, and it's like, that's it. What? I'm not watching any other Transformer films, right? I don't care what you say, I'm not, right? And I stay true to it, right? It's like I went to go see, well, they brought out another one. It's like, I'm not watching that crap, right? Because it was the same people, right? Then you have another person, then I watch that because it's a different director, right? So those movies were better with a different director, right? But all I'm saying is this, right? For creative writing, right? It's creative writing, not box office. You see, you're in school, yeah, you get no grades for box office. You understand? It's like, what kind of grades do I get for the film I was in that was like Transformers that made a lot of money? Well, you get no grades, right? Why? Because it's all about the writing, right? Like it's creative writing. You get nothing. The movie could make Transformers money, or it could make no money. What matters is what I say when I watch the story and what grade I give a film, right? That's any film, right? Whether I would say that's what I have to deal with, right? But the best stories, you will say, are the ones that make no money, right? So you have movies that get disqualified, right? But they all have some type of like a, how would you say, connection that they kind of work for the same companies per se, right? They get disqualified, they kind of work for the same companies, right? So whatever grade I give to the writer, right? The writer's not the director, you understand? Like any film that you watch, the writer has nothing to do with the directing, right? So it's creative writing, right? So the writing, right? What does that have to do with the director, how the film is made and things like that? Nothing. It's just the writer, right? So if it's disqualified, it's because of the director, not the writer. That's what I want to explain, right? Someone gets disqualified. Yeah, because the director did that. What about the writer? The writer wrote the script a long time ago. Here's the script. Boom. Now with the story, you make it how you want to make it, right? But when the director does that, everyone gets fired because they're part of the company, right? If it's the company, everyone gets fired, right? So the one that makes a film that makes it disqualified is the director, right? But since everybody worked together, everyone gets fired, right? But it's the director. I want to make sure a film gets disqualified, okay? The producer gets a good grade. The writer gets a good grade, right? I'm giving the example, right? Because that's happened, right? The writer, the producer gets a good grade, right? Then the director makes a film disqualification, everyone gets fired. But who's the main person responsible? The director, whoever the director is, right? But when you make the film, at the end of the day, when you have the premiere or whatever, when it's shown or whatever, everyone's together. So that's why everyone gets fired, right? So that's why having a good director is so important, right? And myself as a director, I already shown how I am, right? And I never even remotely do anything near what people do what is disqualified, right? So when people get disqualified, it's myself, at the director, general manager, that I get rid of these people, right? And that's it, right? So I'm just saying, when a film gets disqualified, they could get a good producer grade, right? They could get a good writer's grade, right? But it's the director that gets everything disqualified, right? So that's what it is, right? That's what happens. And everyone gets disqualified, because when you make a film that gets disqualified, it's a lot of movies get disqualified, a lot, right? The person that made everything possible for disqualification was the director, right? What happens when you go to the premiere? When you go to the premiere, everyone's together, right? The writer, producer, director, actors, whatever, they're all there together. Okay, you're all disqualified, right? For all the reasons everybody knows why, right? So that's what happens, right? So everyone gets a grade, but once you're disqualified, everyone's disqualified, and it's the director that did that, right? But everyone agreed with the director, right? And that's it, right? So creative writing, it's not how much a movie makes, right? It's not, right? So the best movies that get best grades for creative writing are the films that usually don't make any money, right? You see all these movies that make all this money, yeah, they don't really get nominated for awards. Not really, right? There's very few that do, right? And that's it, right? So a film that is like an example, right? There could be a film, as an example, right? There could be a film where everybody got disqualified and everybody got fired, but if it was a very well written movie, like written, it could get nominated, right? It was written very good, right? It could get nominated, right? But it got disqualified, right? That's what happens, right? But basically, disqualified means that you don't work with my self-ladder stand. See, you could have your accolades, right? You could make a lot of money, right? You could be like top 10, 20, right? You could be top 10, 20 biggest box office of all time, right? Great. The company made all that money, but you're all fired, right? And at the end, the people who are in big trouble the most are the people who have to look for a new job all the time, right? It's like, I'll tell people, right? I bet you don't know that directors don't make that much money. They don't. Directors don't make that much money, neither do producers, and writers don't make that much money at all, right? And actors is the same thing. Actors don't make that much money, right? And actors, a lot of times, rely on references, right? How actors work is that an actor makes a film, right? Let's say let's put an example that never happened, right? They make a film that's very successful and gets awards, right? And it's a good film, it's not disqualified, whatever, right? They have to look for another job, right? They okay, you're done, boom, boom. They have to look for another job, right? So it's all about reference, right? The best reference you can have will be with myself, right? It's like I work with a person in a film, whatever the film is, right? And it's like, this person was very obedient, they did a good performance, they were good with people in general, right? So I'll give a good word for you so you could work somewhere else, right? Because a person makes a film with me as an example, right? And then they have to look for another job, you see? I have a film, right? and then they're looking for I gotta work again, right? Okay, so you gotta look for another film that's out there you could try to get into, right? But then I'll give a reference, right? Someone will talk to me, hey, Stanley Cup Kubrick, right? They have mainly a MOM3 general manager, right, head coach. I met this person. You like them? What do you think about this person? And I'll give them a good reference. It's like, cool, and they get hired, right? Because I gave a good reference, right? So if someone would ask me, what do you think about this person? Another person, right? And then it's like they got disqualified. I met them. They were bad. They did this. They did all these bad things, right? And then with my reference is like the worst thing that could happen, because it's like, are you for real? Yeah, this person did all these things that are not good, right? Okay, and it could be someone that basically I fired, right? As an example, like I fired this person, right? And all these things, right? So then the person will not hire them at all, and then the word spreads throughout, you could say, Hollywood, saying like, hey man, I talked to Stanley Cup Kubrick, MOM3, and said, look what this person did. What? Are you for real? And then it starts spreading to other directors and other producers, right? So once I tell a person, I give them like tell them like, oh, I fired this person, this and that. They did all these bad things, this and that, and they talk to me. Then it spreads everywhere, right? And then nobody wants to work with that person, and then the person is out of a job, right? Completely, right? So the best thing that could happen to a person is for me to give a good reference, and then the worst thing that could happen to a person is for me to give a bad reference, right? It's like I give a bad reference about the person, this and that. They did all these incorrect things, right? And you say like they got, and also they got fired, you know, because it could be everything together. They got fired, they did all these bad things, this and that, and then it spreads, right? Because it's me, general manager, MOM3, right? And then you have, like, as an actor, people have to look for acting jobs all the time, right? And all of a sudden the person can get a job anywhere, right? And they're all individuals, right? You see what I said with NYK numbers? Yeah. So they're all individuals, all different NYK numbers, work in different films, this and that. Then they have to go look for a new one, right? So whether I fire someone or anything else, and then I give a bad reference, those people are pretty much gonna be out of a job for their entire life, almost, right? Because the word spreads. You see, the word spreads of what this person was, what I, MOM3, gave, but they weren't good, right? So that's the last thing you want, right? Because that's what I said, like actors, they finish a film, then they gotta look for another one. They finish one, boom, 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 and that's it. It's very hard for actors, right? It's like I tell a person, right? You wanna be an actor? Yeah. Well, it's extremely difficult. Why? Because you could have all this success in one film, right? And then you have to look for another one, and you don't find a job for a long time, right? That's what happens with a lot of people. Like with the new Star Wars, right? They made a whole lot more money than the older ones, which are way better stories. They're really good on Rotten Tomatoes, right? The old Star Wars. The new ones they're not as good as the first ones in Rotten Tomatoes. And the fans don't like the new ones, right? So in the old Star Wars, right? Everyone had to look for a job. And the only one that consistent job was Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford, right? Out of all the old Star Wars, right? Which are like the biggest films of all time, right? It was a long time ago, so they're not that up there in gross, like income, money making, right? Because it was a long time ago. Tell me, who out of all the people in Star Wars had a long career? Like after Star Wars was finished, right? How many films did they do afterwards? Only Harrison Ford, right? So what happened to the other people? They were probably unemployed, or maybe had little movies, right? But you made Star Wars. Star Wars is like, throughout the entire history of Hollywood, one of the most famous films. Yeah, I know, but they still have to look for another job, right? And you know, whatever job they did in the film, they did this, right? They couldn't get another job. That's the best example, Star Wars, right? And look at their careers, look at their history. They didn't really make that much, right? So what happens with actors now? The same thing, right? But it's pretty much worse, right? If that happens with Star Wars, imagine what happens now with people that have to look for jobs now, right? So you have that with Star Wars. Even look at the new Star Wars from now, right? You have the real new actors. You don't really see those actors that much either, right? So that's how it works, right? Who keeps all the money for Star Wars? You could say the studios, right? The studios keep all the money. Okay, what about the actors? No, they get a small salary, right? So being an actor is like the worst job, as far as like that you have to look for a job all the time, right? And you get jobs with references, right? So an actor will get a lot of jobs if number one, I don't fire them and I give a good reference, right? If myself at MOM3, right? Stanley Cup Kubrick, right? A Kubrick, right? MOM3 is like I'm done with these films. This person was I didn't fire them, right? This person did all the things they obeyed, right? And I'll give that reference. It's not gonna guarantee they get a job. It's not gonna guarantee, but it will help them a lot, right? I could say good things about a person, right? But it's not gonna guarantee anything, right? But what will be really bad is like I fired this person and I said they were very disobedient, they did all these bad things, right? Then it's like it's gonna be really difficult to get any job, right? As an actor, right? Or anything else, right? Because I'm talking about actors, right? A lot of people were like, oh, I want to be an actor, this and that. Man, I don't recommend that job just for anyone because very few people can do it, right? Okay, so in Chatsworth, you had the wall, right? And that was a 1533. No, not 1530. It was not a 1533. It was a 15 Hoogie Mooney, right? But it wasn't a 1533. I just said that, right? It was a 15, but as a person, right? It's not in a body vehicle. It's not in a vehicle of an actual raven or crow, right? It's not. But it's in a vehicle of a person, right? So those are 15s, right? But 15 is the last number you want to see, and this is why, right? So with 15 is like the worst things that was done to my health, right? In the kitchen, right? That time, right? And that's it, right? So that's why you have the history that with Patrick Ewing, right? You say with X-Men Days of Future Past, right? Patrick Stewart, right? Then you have Patrick Ewing, then you have a Natalie Portman, Bad Patty's Killer, right? Whenever something happens, it has a consequence, right? Nothing happens for a reason, but everything has a consequence, right? So I gave Patty's the number 29, right? But I did not know these things were gonna happen, right? I bet that I'm gonna have a namer that's a Patty that's gonna do the worst things for my mental health, and that's it, right? I never thought that at all, right? So the number 29 is like Patty, right? But then where you have Natalie Portman, I was like, these 15s are so bad, right? Then the number 29 will only belong at Natalie Portman. That is appropriate, right? 29 with everything that Tracy Nina Alice, the 81, the wife, right? So the history with 15 that's a worse number. You never want to have number 15, right? So like 15 basically means hell deportations, right? That's the number 15. What does 15 mean? Hell deportations, right? And now you have the history that you have 15, right? Bad patties at the wall in the kitchen, right? So the kitchen means you could say hella jewels, right? Michael Myers, right? Everything that I explained, but it's mainly hella jewels, right? So when you see the number 15, it's like you're not working with hella jewels, right? That you have a super bad, right? You have number 15? Yeah, well, you're not working with hella jewels. Why? Because all the history in Chatsworth, right? That's 15. 15 usually means you're away from hella jewels that is super bad, right? That's the number 15 because everything happened in that kitchen, right? Everything happened in that kitchen, you see? And that's it, like the worst things for my health, right? So that's why you have that. And how else would I explain it, right? So then I had to come up with an idea, right? It's like, what am I gonna do now, right? Because when you have a 29, it's like smart, right? That's what 29 means, smart. You put a Patty, but you put Patrick Ewing, right? So it's like, these people are not smart, right? They're doing bad things, right? So I'm gonna put the Genesis, everything's Natalie Portman, Tracy Nina Alice, Patrick Ewing, that you could put at Professor X, Patrick Stewart. You see? Patrick Stewart, Patrick Ewing, Natalie Portman, body dysmorphic, OCD, bipolar, mood disorder, depression, right? Doing everything to not hurt myself, relax, sleep, right? Everything that you see with Natalie Portman described, right? So that's where you have 29, right? But then 29 with Natalie Portman translates to Malcolm Brogdon, Tracy McGrady, and Barry Sanders, right? But you see, Natalie Portman technically is like a Patrick Ewing, right? So you go from Patrick Ewing, got at 29 smart, Natalie Portman got those jobs as representative, right? But it starts with Patrick Ewing and Natalie Portman. Then you have that, right? So because of that, you have JJ Redick. You see, why is JJ Redick there? Because all these 15s got disqualified, right? So I had to put JJ Redick because you have to earn to get a Patrick Ewing. See, you want to earn to get a Patrick Ewing. That means you're trying to get near me at Patrick Stewart. You see, that's me, Professor X, in the old X-Men films, right? You have Professor X. Okay, so that's Patrick Ewing, Patrick Stewart, right? So that's for all the Ravens. You can say Ravens, Crows, Mystiques, right? They want to be in good terms with me. Those Mystiques, they have to get to Patrick Ewing GPA, right? That's Patrick Stewart, but you're at JJ Redick, right? But now all JJ Redicks are not bad. You see, you have a classroom, right? And those are 15s inside that classroom, right? So you have 100 seats, and you have a whole bunch of JJ Redicks, right? And it's number 7, and you put Julia Roberts, right? You put Julia Roberts, JJ Redick, right? But they cannot go at Patrick Ewing, at Natalie Portman, Patrick Stewart, because everything that happened in the kitchen, right? So that's number 15. Why? Because Huyin and Mooning are 15s, right? But if you want to be a smart Patty, you have to earn your way to Patrick Ewing, that's Patrick Stewart, Natalie Portman, X-Men, Professor X, right? So that's all for Mystiques. It's just for Mystiques, the number 15, because that's Huyin Mooning, right? So as an example, you have Alonzo Mourning, right? And that's where I get to this, right? Okay, so Alonzo Mourning is 33. See? Alonzo Mourning's 33, and you could say that JJ Redick is 15-7. You see? That's the difference. You see? What about Alonzo Mourning? Okay, that's 15-33, right? What about JJ Redick? That's 15-7, right? So JJ Redick equals everything that happened in Chatsworth, right? So what happened there is like Hella Jules is not in the kitchen, right? Disconnected, right? And that's for anyone, right? But that's where the number originates from. The number 15 has to do with Mystique, right? Mystique, 15, right? And they have, what's the history of 15? Well, Jules Hella is not in that kitchen. There's no Hella Jules Superbat for you. That's number 15. You don't want to see number 15. That's the worst number, right? 15. Oh, crap. There's no Hella Jules there. That's right. There's no Hella Jules. Why? 15. What happened in Chatsworth? They have a Huyin Mooning, JJ Redick, right? So when you see 15, it's like you don't work with Hella Jules, right? Because that's a 15, right? But it's like I said, it's JJ Redick, right? But then you go, what part of 15? 7, but it's 15, right? And also 15 means hell deportations, right? So it's deportations, right? But the main thing now is that you're disconnected from Hella Jewel, right? And you're like deportations to hell, right? And then big sister is hella, right? Your sister is hell. Your sister is hella. right? So you're disconnected from the kitchen, from being with hella Jules super bad because that happened in the kitchen, right? So that's number 15. 15 is a horrible number. You never want to have that number. If you have the number 15, you're screwed. You're screwed because that's what happens. You don't want to have that number, right? So then when you have 1533, that's a good number, right? As an example, it's not just 15, right? If you have the number 15-7, then that's an opportunity that you're a good JJ Redick, right? Then another person could be 15-2, 15-8, yeah. But if you just have the number 15, you're pretty much screwed. It's like if you have the number 15, you want to remove it, right? Because that means all those things, especially not only it means fire, but you're not in the kitchen with Jules Hella, number 15, right? Because everything happened in the kitchen in Chatsworth, right? This all happened in Chatsworth, so that's where you have the number 15. If there's a number, you never want to have 15, right? That's it, right? So that's the history with that, right? So getting to 15-7, right? You have JJ Redick, right? And got drafted from Duke, right? And Duke is a really good university, and that's me, Mom Dukes, right? So that's Patty, right? So the ones that are good are the ones that earn their way to the top, right? Like an example, right? That's being defensive Sith, right? Like everything that I teach, right? Let me see. This is like the first album, right? Let's see. I put a lot of things, right? Talent Scout. Let me see. They're a really good band, right? But your career is not your choices in life, right? So let me see. Is there another one? This one. And this one, right? Okay, so 15s. Those will be 15-7s, and their job is to earn their ways to number 29, right? But you just have to be good, right? But you're not gonna say all 15-7s are bad, right? So 15-7s want to get to the point of just 29, right? But I'm saying in people body vehicles, right? You're not looking at the Hellcops 934s. You're looking at the people body vehicles, right? So you have a Hoogie Mooney. I want to get you have a JJ Redick, right? A Julia Roberts. I want to get to 29. So you have to earn it. You see? You're not gonna just get to 29 at Patrick Stewart GPA, right? You have to earn it. You have to do all these good things, right? And that's it. So you don't want number 15 at all. Okay? So with JJ Redick, it's basically scouting, right? And in college, one of the best 3-point shooters ever. And that's it. Good career, you know. It's like not an all-star player, right? But a really good 3-point shooter. That was the job, right? Well, at college, it's like one of the best 3-point shooters in college history. So when you look at that, it's like, well, this person could be part of a team and be a good shooter. That's pretty much it, right? So that was the career and this and that, right? So you put it at Julia Roberts, right? But then you want to get to 29 Patrick Ewing GPA, which you'll be at 29 now, right? Nobody's gonna be Natalie Portman, right? No one. But you're gonna get at a GPA at Patrick Ewing 29, right? But that's all for Mystique's Ravens, right? And they're a 15-7, right? And that's it, right? So when you explain JJ Redick in college, that's how you draft people. You see, it's like all I thought is like, okay, he could be a really good 3-point shooter. That's about it. He's not a defender, he's not a passer, he's not a dunker. No, he's just a person you give the ball, shoots threes. That's it, right? So everybody has like a role, but that's how you do scouting, right? So with myself at the company, especially at Project Mayhem, I do the scouting, but I don't know if the person's gonna last, right? So that's what happens with that, right? So scouting is difficult, right? So when I fire a person, I like scouting. You see, it's like I like scouting. It's like I fire someone, okay. Now I need to look for someone else, right? And it's a lot of people trying to go fill that spot because it's like a seat, right? It's like, imagine if you're in an office, you're a corporation, you're typing, and that's it. You're no longer there. Someone's gonna try to get the seat to work in that desk at a corporation, right? As the example, right? So I fire someone. You have all these people showing their resume, like what they're capable of doing. Oh, I could do all this. I'm obedient. I could perform this. You can rely on me on that. Da da da. All these things, right? But there's a lot of people. Then it's up to me to choose, right? But I don't know how it's really going to turn out, if they're gonna live up to it or they're gonna overachieve, right? So if they don't live up to it, then I fire them, right? If they overachieve, it means like, wow, they're a lot better than what I thought, right? Yeah, I thought they were gonna be good at this, but I didn't think they were gonna be that good, right? So that's what you do with drafting, right? That's why the New York Knicks haven't won a championship, right? Because they have to draft, and it's something they really don't do, right? You have to draft, right? So it's like, I didn't ask to be traded from the Red Sox, right? So that's not my fault, right? So I'm successful, so that's what happens with the Empire State, and myself at 80 is the Empire Country, right? But that's why when you think New York, you think me, MOM3, right? And you get a good reference from myself. I already explained what happens, right? So in New York, the only way you're gonna have a championship if you do what I just explained. You see, I tell people, you don't win a championship because you don't fire people. You have to fire people. You have to fire them, right? You have to be cold, right? You can't think, right? You didn't do something you were supposed to do, you're fired, right? That's a manager, right? You don't have a manager like that, you're never gonna win a championship, whether it's at the Red Sox Magic or the New York Knicks. I want to win with the Orlando Magic Red Sox. Well, the manager needs to be cold and fire people all the time, right? That's what needs to happen with the Orlando Magic. It's like, I'm from a city, yeah, but that's not your favorite team, right? It's like, as an example, right? I'm gonna put like big franchise, right? I'm Boston Celtics, LA Lakers, Golden State Warriors, Miami Heat, right? But my favorite team is the Orlando Magic, right? Because I'm putting a big market, right? It's because you're born in that city, so that's who you are, understand? But then it's like, what's your favorite team? That's not you, your city, right? That's what I'm talking about, right? That's you, that's your city, okay? But what's your favorite team? That's not you, right? And you have Lakers, Warriors, Celtics, and you have what did I say? You could even say New York Knicks, okay? That's the example, right? And Miami Heat, right? My favorite team is the Orlando Magic or the Boston Red Sox, right? Okay, so why do you think they cannot win? Right, because the manager's not cold. You have to fire people all the time, right? And you gotta draft good. But you see how hard drafting is, right? Then after you draft, what you do is trades, right? Because that's how it works. Because it's like, you want the Magic to win a championship? Okay, you need a cold manager, right? That's gonna get rid of people, right? And then you get rid of people, and then you make trades, right? You have drafts, players, whatever, and you make a trade to make the team better. But you want to start the team young. You put some veterans, but you put young players. But you surround them with veterans. You can't win without veterans, right? Then it's free agency. Understand? Free agency is the last thing, right? You don't rely on free agency. You rely on who you draft. You can control who you draft. That's something you control, right? Trades, kind of, because you have to make a trade that the other person's gonna agree, right? The other persons have to agree with the trade, right? And the trade, you're doing it to make your team better, right? You make a trade because you want more cap space, right? I want to sign new people. Okay, you need cap space. Okay, so you need to make a trade to get cap space, right? So that's how you make trades, either for cap space or you want to get draft picks. And if you don't get draft picks, you want players, right? Because especially if you're a young team, what happens with young teams? Young teams want draft picks because they're starting from zero, right? Oh, I want draft picks and I want to clear cap space. Why? Because I just want young people. So I'm getting rid of all these older people with big contracts and I want cap space, right? And I want to draft, right? So that's what happens with young teams, right? So you build your team by drafting. You see, that's what you do. You draft people, right? But then when you trade people, you don't control that much because the other person has to agree whether they want to take they're gonna take your money contracts, because when you give up a contract, it's money, right? So like, here's my money and contracts. You take this person, I no longer have to pay them, right? So they're doing you that favor. It's a favor. I don't want to pay this person anymore. You take them. So they take all the salary or whatever, right? And a lot of times they just do that and that's it, right? Or you want draft picks, right? I want to start a young team, right? So what do? You have to draft, right? So you ask the person, I want to start a young team. I want to start from zero, right? I have good players, but give me draft picks that I could build this team, right? And then the last thing is you sign free agents. That's the last thing. But free agency, you could hardly control that, right? You could hardly control free agency because it's basically like you don't know where the person wants to sign sometimes, right? It depends on anyone, right? So a franchise who will be the worst franchise will be a team that goes number one free agents, right? That's the worst team. Like, who the hell is this manager, right? It's like, I'm not gonna draft good. I'm just gonna wait for free agency, right? Then it's like, you're freaking lazy, right? What you're supposed to do is draft, right? And free agency, you don't know what's gonna happen, right? So a person is lazy. Is like, let me get rid of all these contracts, and I'll wait till these people are free agency, and I don't have to draft, and this person just signs with me, right? So that's what you call a lazy manager. You're lazy. Why? Because you're supposed to do draft and do talent scout, right? You're just waiting for, just give someone a contract, right? You didn't discover those people, right? You have a person, yeah, you didn't discover them. Well, what did you do? Well, the person was already discovered, and I just told him to sign with me, right? So I'm gonna look at your team, right? How many of these people did you discover? None of them. So you just signed them. Yeah, you're not a manager. You understand? You're not a manager. Why? Because you signed the people. Which one of these people did you discover? None. Okay? That's why when you have all these teams in 2010 and 2020 that are gluttony, those are bad managers, right? Because these people were not discovered. You understand? That's why I tell people, what do you think DAD1 didn't want to watch anymore? Because of all the sin. And not only that, there's no defense, pretty much, right? And when I look at the managers, I look who they discovered, right? And it's like, all these teams are doing, they're signing people, right? So when you just sign people, technically that's bad management from the perspective that you're not drafting them, right? Yeah, you're signing good people. Yeah, you're going to win championships, right? But you're being a bad manager by when you go, did you discover this person? No. Then the number one thing for a manager is to discover people, right? That you have like a Project Mayhem, right? The people have to work their way to the top, and it's like, I discover them, right? Okay, so the Orlando Magic will win a championship if that happens. You see? You have to draft, right? You don't rely on free agency, right? You draft good, and you're always going to be good, right? You have a cold manager, right, that drafts good, that team will always be good. right? Let's say someone gets injured, right? Someone gets injured, it happens, right? Someone gets traded, right? Someone signs somewhere else. That's what happens, right? But if the manager drafts good, the team will always be good. You see? Oh, do you know when someone's gonna get injured? No. Do you know when someone's gonna be traded? Not a lot of times. Do you know when someone is gonna sign as a free agent or retire? You don't know that, right? But what you do know that you can control is that you draft good, right? So you could say the Orlando Magic, right? They could be a very successful franchise, right? If they know how to draft, right? If they have a manager that's cold like myself, right? But they find talent, right? Then it could be like, wow, the Orlando Magic have been one of the best teams for such a long time, right? But then you look, why? And you see that manager, right? Holy crap, why are they so good? They have all these people. Yeah, you know the manager? No. Have you ever seen the manager? No. That's the person. That's why they're so good, right? So the Magic simply have not won because of that, right? They don't have a good general manager, right? So you have all these teams, and their favorite team is the Orlando Magic or the Boston Red Sox. But I'm explaining why they don't win. Why every year they're unsuccessful, right? They're unsuccessful because whoever's there doesn't draft stars, and and they don't make any type of trade that improves them, and they haven't signed anyone that would really help them along, right? And then you put the fact that it's a small market, right? Orlando Magic is a small market. It's not a big market that people are going to be like, wow, it's such a huge city. No, it's not, right? So you have all those obstacles, right? So that's when you say you win, right? Unless, right, it's not drafting, right? I want to trade my all-star to the Orlando Magic, right? It's like saying, like, any of the teams that I mentioned, like Warriors, Lakers, you can put Celtics, or Miami Heat, right? Oh, I want the Magic to win so bad, I'm going to trade one of my all-stars, right? Which is like, well, if you do that, you know you're sacrificing yourself. What? It means it's like you're going to die, but the Magic are going to live, right? You're willing to sacrifice yourself? Fine, right? But nobody really does that, right? But even if you do that, right, the manager needs to draft, you understand? But that's the only thing a person can do, right? Like if you're such a huge fan, you'd be like, all right, man, you know what? I want the Magic to win so bad, and they're always bad. I'll give you one of my best players, and I'll sacrifice myself so the Magic can win a championship, right? A person could do that, right? But at the same time, what I'm explaining is that nobody really does that, but you build a team through the draft, not really like a trade or free agency, right? But a person could do that if they want, right? It depends how bad you want the Magic to win, right? But that's how you do it, right? So when the Magic have had good players, the manager doesn't know how to manage the team, and it always goes back, right? Either the person gets traded, signed somewhere else, or whatever. Why? Because the manager is not that good. It's just that simple, right? The manager's not that good. They don't know how to build a team, right? That's gonna get you to the point. It's like an example, right? People leave the Magic, right? Or they get traded, right? Okay, that happens, right? But if the manager's good, he'll draft another good person. You see? It's like, oh wow, a good player left the Magic, right? It happens with free agency, right? Okay, a person left in free agency or a trade. Or maybe retires. Okay, what are we gonna do now? Well, the manager needs to draft new people, right? So the Magic have been so bad, when anyone left through a trade, anyone left through free agency, or anyone left towards retirement, right? Because what happens with a trade, it just means like something's going on with the team that someone has to leave, right? They leave because of that. But when you put me at Tracy, it was because no one was there to help me, and I couldn't do anything about that, right? It's like they told me, you have to leave that team. Why? Because the manager is so bad that you're there by yourself, right? Grant Hill never plays, right? You're surrounded by a whole bunch of people, that cannot help you, so you have to leave this team. And I didn't want to, right? I didn't want to leave the Red Sox, right? I didn't want to leave the Red Sox, but it was like, we're putting you in China, right? And then that's what happened, right? But I wanted to stay, even though, see, my personality is, I don't want to leave, even though the place could be bad. The only thing that I could do is retire, right? That's it. Like a Barry Sanders, like, I don't want to leave the team, right? But the only thing I will do is retire. But I really don't want to go to another team. My personality is pretty much loyal, right? Wherever I'm at, right? So I don't ever want to leave, right? But then if it gets bad, I'll retire, right? I don't really want to be in another city, right? So that's my personality, right? But when we go like, oh, Tracy went to another team or whatever, but I'm explaining why. See, it's like they're not gonna tell you, right? They'll probably have a story saying like, oh, this happened, that happened, right? But it was because no one's helping me, and I still didn't want to leave, right? So that's what happens with that, right? But when there's a trade, the person leaves, right? But in that situation, they told me, you have to leave, right? And I didn't want to. I still remember. It was like a summer, and it was like, I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. Like, you have to leave. Like, no. And they're like, oh, Tracy got traded. That the wife legally won, but I never wanted to leave, right? And I remember when it happened, I was like, like I was pretty upset, right? But I can't control that, right? But then people really leave teams, right? For whatever reason, right? It could be free agency or trades, right? But you have to understand that in sports, it's a business, it's entertainment, and then people write their own stories. You see, people write their own stories, and then they actually take Tracy McGrady to say something, right? Like, oh, something happened with the management or this and that, right? But then if you ask me, it's like, well, that's what they wrote, but I never wanted to leave. You see, like everything that you read on the media or whatever, and don't really believe it, right? It's like they trade you. They traded me because the manager was so bad, but then they tell the person like, you can't say that, right? What you have to say is like, there were problems here, blah, 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 and I just wanted to go into a better situation, right? That's what they have to say in public, but I'm explaining that's not true. See, that is not true at all, right? But then if I don't go to China, you don't have what's going on in Project Mayhem now, right? And that's it. But I never wanted to leave the Red Sox. I was like, I love the Red Sox, the Magic. I mean, that's why they put me there, right? My favorite team was the Red Sox, Magic. My favorite player was Petty Hardaway, Donatello. That's why I wore number 1. See? And that's why they told me, we're going to put you in your favorite team, the Red Sox Magic. And I wore number 1, right? So, but they were always bad. See, the Magic have always been bad. They've never really been that good, right? That's what happens with Magic fans, right? And Big Sister never played for the Magic. You see, Big Sister is the Magic, right? But she never played for the Magic, right? Oh, I love Hella Jewels, right? Captain America, Pepper Potts' Death, Grim Reaper, right? Michael Myers, right? But Big Sister never played for those teams. I played for that team, and so did MOM3, right? MOM3 didn't ask to be traded, right? The same shit, right? It's the same crap. MOM3, did she want to get traded? No. Oh, Babe Ruth got traded. She didn't ask for a trade, right? And then with myself and Tracy, D81, did I want to get traded? Hell no, right? But they're like, well, no one's helping you here, whoever the manager is, so we're putting you in China, right? But then in public, they have to say something else, right? So it's not true, right? They write that for the person to say. I wanted to win. I couldn't do it in Red Sox, so I want to join this team. Like, thank you. God damn, I had to say that. And then you go to me like, I never wanted to leave, right? So it's like you can't believe what you see on TV, right? So that's what happened with that. If they had a good manager, I would have never left, right? Ever, right? The career would have still been short, right? But it would have ended there, right? I would have never left, right? So it would have been like 3 more years because of the body that couldn't hold up, right? But if they had a good team, I would have never left, you know. But you're stuck with a contract with Grant Hill that can't play, and then you don't have anyone else there, you know. So that's what happens with that. See, but I'm explaining why they haven't won a championship, because the managers are bad to the point they have to trade me for the team. Yo, this place is horrible. We're gonna put you in China. Why? Dude, you can't play with anyone here. You have to do everything, right? And you could say, since I did everything there, it made my body worse, and that's why like it lasted so little, right? Imagine you're in a place and you have to do everything, right? So in the Red Sox, I had to do everything. No one was really helping me, right? And when that happened, my body broke down even more. So and with China, it was like 3 years and that's it. 3 years and it's like, blah, that's it. The body, I couldn't run or jump, right? And that's it, right? So you say people leave through free agency or trades, right? But with myself, that's not true, right? They did that because of the manager, right? I never wanted to leave, right? So that's my behavior. I never leave. I always stay there. Either I retire or keep playing. That's it. What's my behavior? I retire or keep playing, right? But I never want to leave the place, right? I never want to leave the place, whatever the place is, right? Every time that happens, I get upset, right? It's like I play for this team, they trade me, and I don't like it, right? But then they give the person a paper to read. Oh yeah, well, I wanted to join this team because it's more success, and they're not helping me over here, whatever. Yeah, that's not true, right? With a lot of things, I don't want to play for that team. I don't want to go over there, right? So you can't believe whatever you read on the thing, right? So I still do my job, but it's like I don't want to be here, right? Because I want to be where I'm from. You see, when they put me somewhere else, where I'm from, I don't like it, right? But that's part of the business, right? It's like I don't like being somewhere else, right? But it's like I don't want to be anywhere else but the Red Sox. But that's not up to me at that point. I'm gonna put you somewhere else, right? So you can't believe everything you say. But my behavior that you know is me, right? It's like I don't leave the places. I retire, but I don't leave the places. You see, you put someone that they leave the place. They write those things, but with myself, that is me. I'll just retire, but I will not leave the place, right? Because that's my behavior, right? That's why I'm DAD1, right? The wife, okay? So that's me when you have at sports, right? But then like people really do the other things. Oh, free agent, and they really don't want to be there. Okay, that's them, but that's not me. Okay, but that's why I say with myself, don't believe anything that you read, right? So with that, that's why the Magic have been so bad. You see, the manager. You see, like people they can't bill, so those are the consequences, right? So I think I've seen they have a maybe new manager, right? I don't know, man. Like I don't know anything about that person, but I don't know. Like right now, it's like I said, but right now the team is a bunch of players that are decent, but nothing close to any all-stars, right? It's just like you have, I know the players, right? You have a bunch of players, but they're decent, right? It's like, they're not bad, right? But they don't have like an all-star, right? But they have drafted all those players though. That I give them that, right? They have drafted all these players, right? Because it's not a big market, right? They have drafted all these players, but none of them are a franchise player, like a player that could do a lot of things, right? So realistically, they're gonna have to look for a trade, right? But even if they want to make a trade, right? I don't know if a team will want to get those players. You see, they have a whole bunch of young players, right? So let's say there's a star available, right? Number one, the person, people want to play for big cities, right? So the person has to be, oh, I want to play in a small market. Number one, right? And
going to Orlando Magic, Red Sox, they have a history to have a bad manager, right? So it's like you want to go to a place that has a history of managers that are not very good, and it's a small market, and they've never won a championship, right? So the person has to agree to that, right? So then they go there, and when that happens, you have a huge responsibility, right? If you're a star of a team, right, you have to do a lot of things, right? So it's like you were probably really good in a team, but now you have to do a lot of things here, and the people around you, they're like decent, right? It's like they're not all-stars, they're decent, right? But realistically for the Magic, I guess they have to like get a whole bunch of like decent players and like find someone that wants to work at the Red Sox, right? They have to. It's like, you want to go here? Why? They never won a championship. Understand? A lot of people don't think like myself, right? Which is, I just want to do my tax, this and that, right? But most people are like this. I want to win a championship. I want to be considered one of the best. I care about being considered the best. I want to be a GOAT, blah, blah, blah. I want championships, which is the opposite of myself, right? So that's why you have me at Tracy is the opposite of everyone else. That's why I'm the wife. That's why I'm the one, right? It's like, I don't really care about championships. I don't care about being one of the best, right? I just want to do my task, right? But most people are not like me, right? Most people want a championship, this and that, right? So what I'm saying is this, right? It's like the person has to agree, want to go to a place that's never won, you see? It's like an example. I give you the cities, right? You have the people from the cities. The person has to be from Warriors, Lakers, Heat, Celtics, right? It's like, I want to go to this place because they've never won. What do all these places have in common? Heat, Celtics, Lakers, Warriors. They have a lot of championships, right? So you're used to all these championships, right? You want to go to the Red Sox that they've never won. At the Magic, they've never won, right? And they don't have an all-star, right? And their manager has been bad. So the person has to agree, right? Are you sure you want to do this, right? So the person agrees to that, and they go there, right? And maybe the person could make other people want to go there, right? That's the only thing that could happen, right? The person agrees. It's like the Magic have never won, and then maybe someone else wants to join them, right? Maybe. But that will probably be through free agency, right? But that's the only way, because it's like it's like the movie Fever, what's it called? Perfect Pitch, right? A Fever Pitch, whatever, right? The film about, you know, people that are Red Sox fans, Hella Jewels, Orlando Magic, right? It's like it took 100 years for them to break to win a championship after MOM3 didn't ask for a trade, right? It took 100 years since I got traded, and I didn't ask for a trade. You see, I didn't ask for the trade, right? So what happened when I went to New York? They won because I started that, right? It's like, it's the house that MOM3 built, right? Yeah, but I didn't ask to get traded. What does mom and dad have in common? We never asked to leave the Red Sox, you see? We never asked for that. They told us, like, we're going to put you in the Yankees, and we're going to put you in the Rockets, right? And now you know the history with the Yankees, but it's like, that's not my fault, right? And then you have a Tracy that you already knew the career. That's not my fault that they traded me from the Red Sox, right? So the whole thing is like, okay, you have it's not the Knicks, but we'll put the Knicks just in case, right? That's not gonna happen, right? Because they don't have an all-star, right? So we'll put Celtics, Lakers, Warriors, and Heat, right? That they've won championships, right? But you're saying that's you and your city, but you're a fan of the Magic, like Fever, Perfect Pitch, whatever the name is, right? And you wanna make a trade, right? But the person has to agree. You understand? You want them to win, but the person has to agree, knowing you're going to the Red Sox at the Magic that they've never won. You see? The person's used to winning. You understand? But the reason why you're going over there is because they've never won. You see? It's like all these places, all they know is winning. They get all stars all the time, whatever, right? But like you want to go to a place that is everyone's favorite team right here, but I'm telling you why they haven't won, right? The curse of the Bambino, myself, of the mom, it just basically means, right, all the incorrect things people have done, right? But the main thing, right, is the manager. You see, if people have done bad things, is bad karma. Yes, but the entire thing that I'm explaining is like they haven't won because of the manager. You see, whoever's been at the Red Sox through all those years since I got traded, the manager was horrible, right? Is the manager, right? So how do you break the bad karma or the curse, right? Well, you need a manager to draft, to make good trades and sign free agents in that order. So that's how you have fever pitch, perfect pitch, right? Whatever it's called. How you have the Magic win a championship for the first time, but you need a roster built like that. So you need a manager to do those things, right? So I guess if someone wants it that bad, you know, it's like the person's like from that city, right? I've experienced championships already, right? But I've never had it with my favorite team. You see, that's the difference, right? You have championships. You experience that from your city, that's you. Yeah, but you've never experienced that from your favorite team, which is completely different, right? So then it's like you're willing to make a trade so your favorite team can win. It's a different feeling, right? It's like, yeah, that's me, that's my team, I won, right? But technically my favorite team will be the Orlando Magic, right? And you never experienced that. No one's ever experienced that because the Magic have never won, right? So the only way to do that is like making a trade over there, but it still doesn't guarantee anything because then you still have to build a team, and hopefully then if you have an all-star there, you attract people, right? But no one's ever done that, right? I'm just giving an explanation. No one's ever done that because then that means your team's gonna be bad, right? So I'm just saying no one's ever done that. So the realistic thing is for just anything to just have a good manager, right? And that's it, you know, because if someone sacrifices themselves, they're sacrificing themselves. It's not really the manager, right? That person sacrificing themselves, yeah. So it's not a manager, right? The manager will be no one sacrificing themselves, right? So with that is the only way to fix it, right? If I was the manager of the Magic, then yeah, of course they would have had success, but I'm not. Right, my job is to teach at the New York Knicks how to win a championship, right? Okay, so you know karma's real, and then you call karma curses, right? But technically, when you say the curse, the karma of the Bambino, was that I left, and I'm also the manager. You see, that is the karma, right? So all those years per se, right? The main thing is like I left. I'm the manager. So for all those years, you had the karma, like how do we find a manager, right? That's what happened to Red Sox. We traded MOM3 there, and that's the manager. So you have the karma, how do we find a manager, right? And they couldn't have a manager to get them a championship team until 2004, right? So that's how it works, right? So now you know, right? The whole thing that I explained, right? You have companies and corporations and places, right? So you get jobs by references, right? And any job that you have that I already explained, especially with actors, right? You have to look for a job all the time. You finish one, you have to look for another one and another one. And everyone's individual, right? Everyone looks out for themselves, right? It's just that simple, right? You have a person that wants to be an actor, they look out for themselves, right? Why? Because once they're done on a film, they have to look for another one. And once they're done, they have to look for another and another one, right? And how do you get that? Reference, right? You get the reference from whoever basically the director was, right? They give a good word, then hopefully you get a job, right? Even if you get a good reference, maybe you don't even get a job, right? because you have to remember, right? A lot of people want that role as an actor, right? Even with a good reference doesn't mean you're gonna get it, right? So that's why I say as an actor, it's a job that's extremely difficult. It's not a job that I would recommend for anyone, right? You want a career, yeah. Actor, I don't recommend that. Why? Because it's a very unstable career, right? You rely on basically references, right? That's the thing. If you mess up, right, with a director to the point that they fire you and give you a bad reference, you're in a real bad situation, right? And that's it, right? So when you have actors, it's not a career I recommend, right? The person could want to be an actor, fine, right? But it's like, mom, head coach, rep, I want to be an actor. I don't recommend that as a career, right? Because of that, right? Oh, but I've seen these people that they're in this movie, they're in the posters, and they made this gigantic blockbuster. Okay, so does that mean they're the company? No. Okay, does that mean that they get all the box office? No. Okay, so what do they have to do next? Look for another job. Okay, so there's a lot of people applying for that job. What makes you think they're gonna get it? It's a different job, right? And that's why I tell people I don't recommend to be an actor, right? Because it's that difficult, right? You could do it if you really want it, but I don't recommend it, right? What do I recommend? Something else, right? But if a person wants to be an actor, that's fine, right? But it's a career that's very hard, right? A lot of people move to Hollywood, LA, because they want to be an actor, right? But it's like, I don't recommend that at all, right? Why? Because it's so many people trying out for that role. What makes you think that you're gonna get it? And then once you're done in that film, you have to look for another one. And then if you do get that one, then you have to get another one, right? If you get fired, have a bad reference, you're in real bad situation, right? So what do I tell people? It's a job that's I wouldn't really recommend. It's a job that, how would I say, right? If you want to do it, it's fine, right? It's like, do whatever you want to do, right? But if someone asks me, you want a career? Yeah, I don't recommend being an actor, right? Because it's very difficult to get a job. That's what I'm saying, right? It's like you go to a job, you have Monday to Friday, and you could work somewhere for years, unless you get fired and you have a bad reference, right? Okay, so that's most jobs, right? An actor doesn't have that, you see? Go to the mall, go to the store, go here, right? The person has a schedule and they're working all the time, right? Okay, so I'll give you the example, right? This is what an actor is, right? So you go to a job like a regular person, you clock in, you clock out, you're scheduled to work, right? Okay, you're an actor, right? You clock in to make the film, you clock out when you end the film, that's it. What? You don't have a job anymore. What? That's it, your job's over, right? That's why I tell people I don't recommend being an actor, right? It's like, what's your schedule? Well, I'm scheduled to work in this film. Clock in, boom, the film starts. Boom, clock in, the film finishes. And what? That's it. You're not coming back anymore. Why? Because the film's over, right? What now? Now you have to look for another job, right? Somewhere else. And if you clock in for the movie, you get fired, you have a bad reference, it's gonna be really tough to get a job somewhere else, right? So as an actor, right, for anyone who wants to be an actor, it's all about reference, right? What I tell people, don't ever get fired, right? Don't ever get fired, right? After don't get fired, be very golden rule and be very obedient, and you get a really good reference, right? So once you get a good reference, then you go try out, right? Doesn't mean you're gonna get the part, right? So with myself, I'm like, if I'm like the worst person to ever be with if I fire someone, right? Because then I have a bad reference, and then you're gonna have a really tough time as an actor finding a job, right? But then it's really good if you do really good, you're very obedient, I don't fire the person, and then they have a good reference with me, right? So it's both ways, right? But an actor is something that I won't ever recommend. I want to be an actor. I don't recommend it, right? It's like, I want to talk to my mom. All right, I'm here. Okay. I want to be an actor. And the first thing I'll say is like, I don't recommend it. Nope. Right? You could do it if you want, but you're asking me as head coach, right? I'm a head coach, right? No. I think you should try something else with your life, right? Because it's very unstable. You understand? It's very unstable, right? And it's hard to get jobs. It's all about reference, right? Reference. People help you out, right? Once you're done with the film, boom, right? You don't get paid that much, the studio keeps all the money, right? That's what happens with films, right? The studio keeps all the money. You get paid very little, and then you have to look for another job, right? So I will never recommend anyone to be an actor, ever. What's the career that I will not recommend? Acting. Why? Because it's very unstable to the fact that you don't know when you're gonna work again, you see? And if you get fired, have a bad reference, is the worst thing that could happen to you. Especially with myself. Then you're in a real bad situation, right? So there's a lot of careers, but that's a career I won't recommend, right? And it's like, always remember, right? People are just like employees, right? People have like a salary, right? The only way they stay in place with the salary, they're obedient to everything they have to do, right? And that's it. That's any job, right? Any job that you're not obedient, you get fired, right? And that's it, right? That's how it works with any job that exists, right? And that's it, right? So the person that has everything, right, is a person that you never see, right? The person that you don't see is the one that gets all the what's it called? The results of the success, right? The person that's the person that's in charge, CEO of the company, the owner, right? That's it, right? So basically, you put that the number one thing, the general manager is the one that's responsible for everything. And with myself is I get all the results from everything, right? It's the Neapolitan ice cream, right? But I'm the one that gets all the results, right? Because I'm the one doing everything, right? When it goes to management, hiring, firing, I put policies, talent scout, this and that, right? But it works the same for everything. But for people that are actors, I don't recommend that. You see, you build things like that, right? But that's a career that you don't know when you're gonna work again. You see, a person could work in a film, maybe they don't work like in 5 years. Okay, so how are you gonna make a salary in 5 years, right? That, I'm just being realistic, right? Okay, you had success in one film, right? Then you don't work for 5 years, right? And then you work in a film, and you get fired, you have that reference, it's gonna be worse than that, right? Right? So you have two choices, but what the two choices have in common is that it's very unstable no matter what you do, right? You don't get fired, you obey, you have a good reference, but maybe you don't work for 5 years, right? You get fired, you have a bad reference, and then you don't work for more than 5 years, right? Because no one wants to hire you, right? You have a bad reference and you got fired, right? You got fired for a reason, then you have a bad reference and then no one wants to hire you, right? So it's either way, right? So you put a worst case and best case, right? So being an actor is like, I will never recommend that, ever. Because I'm the head coach, right? So I'm giving advice, right? All right, you have a team, all right. MOM3, what do you recommend as a career? Not acting, right? That's what I will say. I don't recommend acting, and that's why, right? So basically, that's how you describe anything, right? So you see everything that exists, right? whatever business company it is, all the employees, the people there, they get the smallest part. They don't get anything, right? And everyone has to be obedient to whatever the job requires, or they get fired, right? In any job, you don't do any of the things you're supposed to do, you get fired and you have a bad reference. Any job that exists, right? And then it's gonna be hard to find another job, because everybody knows that any job that exists, there's a lot of people that want a job wherever it is, right? So the worst thing that could happen to anyone at any time is getting fired and having a bad reference.